on my mind.
Somebody in a parachute has just landed on the edge of the ring. Holyfield bit by a dirty Mike Tyson.
Hello and welcome back to The Boxing Show with me, your host, Rob Tebber. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I'm joined by the usual twosome of Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke as we review this past weekend's action and look forward to this weekend. How are we doing, chaps?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good.
All good. Good weekend.
Fantastic.
No work for you this weekend? Nice,
No,
quiet one?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. Yeah, went out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I didn't watch the fight till yesterday. Nice, had a nice weekend.
Andy, you were, of course, in sunny old Liverpool. It was absolutely Baltic up there for Sky's show on Saturday night. You have a good one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good week. It wasn't that easy getting home yesterday, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it might have been. As we were trekking to the station in the wind at about 8 o'clock in the morning, I was eyeing up some absolute chaos. But yeah, it wasn't too bad at the end.
Just before we get started, I'm compelled to point out to this official boxing show episode is sponsored by Duppy Share Rum by a certain Kano, who we had in the studio on the George Groves Boxing Club on Friday. Of course, musician, actor extraordinaire, also desperate big fan of Andy Clarke's new book coming out apparently, which is quite the endorsement for one of British boxing's most celebrated artists to have Kano so interested in his book.
Yeah, it's come as a surprise this. That Taylor messaged me over the weekend and told me that they were talking to him about films and boxing books, and he said that he was looking forward to the book coming out, which is now finished and available for pre-order on Amazon. So I'm just going through like getting quotes and all that kind of stuff for it at the minute, but people need not fear. I will be shamelessly plugging it for weeks and weeks and weeks to the point where you just won't be able to avoid it.
That's unusual.
Yeah, exactly. I may as well finish what I've started. But yeah, I mean, it just occurs to me though, the only way that he could possibly have known about it would be if he watches this.
He does watch this. Big boxing show fan, Kano.
Get a life.
Big Kano fan yourself, Barry?
Massive. I don't know. I don't follow his music. I'm a massive fan. I don't know what he does. No, I've seen him as an actor. He's fantastic. Yeah,
very good. Top Boy 10 if you want 10% off Andy Clarke's new book when it comes out. But let's get going and talk about the boxing. Shout out Kano every time. Checks out the boxing show every which week. When we do them, which isn't every week. But anyway, Barry, going to come to you first. You caught up with the show this past weekend. We're going to start from the top and work our way down from Liverpool. Natasha Jonas successfully defending her IBF welterweight title with a split decision win over Michaela Meyer. Going to throw it straight to you. The right decision?
I don't think so. No, I don't. Yeah, I just thought she got all hustled. I think Michaela Meyer is quite basic, actually. I mean, she's good at what she does. She's relentless pressure, and because she's tall, she punches long, and that's what. But there's not really much to her. I mean, she's right in front. You know where she is. I think it looked like Jonas was trying to time her with the hooks coming back, but she was getting caught off too much for me. Just out hustled throughout the fight. I thought. I think it was imperative she had a fast start. I'm not sure whether she did. I think I had 2-2 after 4, which I always thought was not a good thing for her going on the stretch. Yeah, and I thought she was very lucky. But it's not her fault. You know, she's just going there trying to win the fight, didn't she? But yeah, I thought that was a worse decision than the last time Maya was over here. If we have some sort of basis of she's been robbed twice, but yeah, I think she was really hard done by, very unlucky. So but listen, I'm happy for Jonas. She keeps her belt and she moves on. But yeah, and we've all had the rub of the green in the past. and she sometimes hasn't, and she had it on Saturday. That's not an excuse for that. You can't say, I didn't get the rub of the green on that fight, so I should get it on this one when I lost. But I didn't think it was. I mean, it was it was 2 rounds, 3 rounds maximum maybe for Maya, but I thought it was clear that she won. Sometimes you can have a fight. Someone's won a fight by 2 rounds. Well, that's if some of those rounds are close and you give them to the other person, or we go through all that subjective bollocks again, then you give it to the other girl. But I thought she won her rounds quite clear, which doesn't mean you win a round clear is more points than you were just nicking a round. But I mean, her rounds were obvious, and it was she won at least 6 of them, didn't she? So yeah, that's babble over the same point she was hard done by.
Andy, I'm going to come to you before we kind of dive into the finer points of it all and the details around it. Something that we do speak about quite often here with regards to scoring. Do you feel that Maya potentially was hard done by? Do you feel like Tasha Jonas did enough?
When we got to the end of the fight, I didn't score it round by round, so I kind of disqualify myself under my own rules from commenting on it too much. But rather than just go home now, I may as well try. At the end, I did feel that Maya had probably done enough, but I'm aware of the pitfalls of the fact that I haven't scored it round for round. It occurred to me that the scoring of the first 3 rounds were probably crucial because the middle rounds were definitely Maya's, and then Jonas dug in towards the end. So my feeling was that Maya had probably done enough, but then you're taking other things into account when you haven't scored it round by round. And one of the things you do have to take into account, although it is an imperfect situation, but it's the reality, is that Jonas is at home, and it shouldn't matter. But we all know that whatever country in the world you're in, it can matter. So I didn't feel like it was one of those situations where I was going to nail my colours to the mast and say, this is how it should be, because I'm always wary of that. Because even if you then qualify it with it could be this and it could be that, people will just go with that. And certainly if you're going to be even stronger than that and say that this fighter has definitely won and anything else is incorrect, then you've got to be absolutely sure, because if you do that, then and the other fighter gets it, you're basically invalidating the result, and it's just a big call. It's a big call to make. So I felt at the end that probably anything was possible result-wise. I did feel like Maya had probably done enough, but that anything was possible. I haven't watched it back yet. I will watch it back during the course of the week. I generally don't watch stuff back with a view to deciding, whether I saw it right or not, because I didn't watch it on TV. I watched it live. So watching it on TV can't really tell me whether how I saw it live was right or wrong. But yeah, I will watch it because it was a really good fight. More than anything else, it was a really good fight and I really enjoyed it. But I think Maya, I've just read a statement from her on social media, and I think she's more convinced than ever that she did enough. And there are plenty of people that agree with her.
Yeah, it's always difficult as well to rewatch the fight. When you watch a fight and then kind of 24 hours afterwards is kind of robbery this and robbery that, and then you go back and watch it, that is already going to be in your mind, isn't it? So it's not as we just. Is that supposed to happen? So is that a real fire alarm? Okay, welcome back. Sorry about that. I think the podcast is so hot at the minute itself, the fire alarm for everybody. So I had to leave everywhere. I can't remember what we were saying, but I think it was obviously something to do with the scoring of the fight before we kind of move on to the actual fight. Barry, going to come to you. We kind of mentioned off before we started about a 6-4 fight, 5-5 fight, something that you just kind of mentioned when you were talking there as well about how you can have 6-4 fights that could go either way, or you can have fairly clear ones. And an example that we've discussed over probably the last, whenever the fight was Haney Lomachenko, which was kind of similar-ish in that regard. Yeah. The scoring of the fight, can you see a way that you score it for Jonas, or is it for you as clear as a 6-4 can be? No,
I can't, to be honest, no. But then, maybe if I'm sat there just solely judging a fight, again, so not trying to look for a way out, I thought Maya won. But I thought Jonas was going to win. Let's not forget that. So I'm not trying to back my own little theory or anything here. I thought Jonas was going to win. I really strong on her winning. But I didn't think she did. Now, winning a round, I said this earlier, winning a round big doesn't mean that just because you won your rounds bigger than the other person won theirs, doesn't mean you won the fight. So who wins the most rounds and how you win it. But there were, like as Andy said, there were a couple of rounds, that were, he didn't say, but he sort of alluded to. There was a few rounds there that were tight, and if you just saw them the other way from your angle of the ring, then it's a closer fight. This fucking chair's doing my head. Is it the chair on my back? I don't know what it is. I don't know. But yeah, but I still thought she did enough. Even just the impression, if you just look at it as if you're watching at home, by the way, like I did, obviously, then. That's why people are screaming robbery, because Maya was pushing forward all the time. She was landing with the bigger shots throughout the fight. She looked like she had a better engine. She never looked in trouble, and so the impression of the fight is she was dominant, and that's why people are screaming robbery. Now I think she's extremely hard done by. Not screaming robbery because I don't think it was one of those fights where without a shadow of a doubt. But then I'll contradict myself and think, but I do think she won the fight, and I couldn't see how you could give 6 rounds to Jonas.
Sort of understanding there's robberies where someone 8 rounds to 2 or 9 rounds to 1 or whatever. That's kind of, I think more people look at that as a conventional robbery. But again, it's kind of understanding. I had this conversation with Ben Shalom after the fight, although not at the press conference because the media weren't allowed to ask questions, but we'll come on to that, Ben. Anyway, where I said that I think that a robbery can be defined as, again, what you've said, can you find 6 rounds for them? It doesn't necessarily mean that they lost every round, but can you find 6 rounds to give Tasha Jonas? Like you, I don't think I can. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the blindest robbery we've ever seen. It's 10-0, 9-1, but still, it's can you reasonably find a way for her to win?
Well, I had a draw early in my career, and if it was a draw, it's a draw. I'm happy to admit whatever goes wrong in my career. I've had some rubs of the green, by the way, early in my career, but I won the fight. It was so easy. I enjoyed it. When you're not a puncher, you can't enjoy a fight because you just can't, because there's always that fear. They can walk through you and knock you out. So you're always concentrating. You can't make a mistake. So there's few fights when you enjoy a fight, you massively dominated it. And I enjoyed it, and I got a draw. That was a robbery. Even the Box News, it was a 6th round, and they wrote, this might be the worst decision of the year. You can look back on your archives. Now you own the magazine. But it's when you win everything, clearly, without a doubt. There's no, and then it doesn't go, and then and everyone sees one fight, and then one guy back then, one guy that was the referee would score the fight. He's the only one that sees the other fight, sees it the other way. This wasn't quite that, because she did pick up a few rounds, Natasha, and she was firing back all the time. But it's still, I don't know what I'm babbling on about. Maya won the fight. Like, this is no slight on Natasha, no slight on anyone else. I thought Maya won the fight, and I thought she should have got the title. She never got it. And I wanted Jonas to win, and I thought she was going to win. Just because people started want to fight me. And that's why I saw it. I don't argue any other way. That's the way I saw it. But I'm not concentrating judging the fight intensely. And I'm not the best of judges anyway, to be honest. I don't think I am. But that's how I saw it. I just thought she did the better work in the rounds that she won. And she won more rounds. That's fucking simple, isn't it, really? She won more rounds. Forget what she did. She won more rounds, I thought, than Jonas did. There you go. And it might be that those first 4 rounds you could have had a 3-1 to Jonas. I had a 2-2 straight away. You could have had a 3-1 to Jonas. Then all of a sudden it's a much closer fight, and it's only 1 round in on my card rather than 2. And you go, it's a draw. And all of a sudden, then I got it. It can be, so you can easily switch it. That's why it's not a daylight robbery, because you give that 1 round to Jonas, to Maya, or give it back to Jonas, whichever you look at it. And then it's a different fight altogether.
Yeah, that was my feeling at the end, was that it was close enough. Like I said, didn't score it round by round. It was close enough that anything was possible result-wise. Although on kind of impression scoring, which is what I was that was what was in my head, but that was what I was kind of wary of. It did look, if you watched it as 120-minute long round, like Maya had had won the fight. Like it looked like, they're not the same, but like it looked like Delphine Pursoon had beaten Katie Taylor at Madison Square Garden because she won her rounds big and she finished strong, and there wasn't a mark on her like there wasn't a mark on Mayer. So it is just, it's one of those situations. But I just think the word robbery is one that is thrown around far too readily, and people watching boxing, they're entitled to do whatever they want. You tune in, you watch it, you can take to social media, you can do whatever you like. We're not, and I would never try to be the kind of the police in that regard. But if you're doing what I'm doing, I do think you need to be very wary if you're going to throw that around. You've got to be absolutely sure. You've got to be absolutely sure, because for better or worse, people do listen to what you say. And if you decided it was a robbery and you say that, and maybe it wasn't really, then as I said before, you've invalidated a fighter's win, possibly in a really big fight. And people watching it will think, well, the commentator said this, so that, that's that, I'm going to stick with that. And then all of a sudden, this person who's got the decision on maybe the biggest night of their life finds themselves just besieged by people telling them they didn't deserve it. So you've got to be really, really sure if you're going to go down that road. And there was no way I was going to do that from what I saw from my vantage point.
And that's why TV scorecards are a waste of time.
Yeah, we've spoke about this repeatedly in the past.
I don't know why they still do it. I don't know why.
You just get someone like when HBO used to have Harold Lederman doing his card, somebody who scores fights and that's their job during the fight is to score the fight. I know you've done it
for a bit where that was my sole job, but even then you can't really. You've still got to have the commentary in your ears, because you've got to be in the flow of the program, because you've got to know when they're going to come to you. And then they'll want your score kind of 15 seconds before the end of the round so they can put it in the graphic. And then sometimes you give it to them, but it's a razor tight round, and then someone has a big flurry at the end, and your scorecard's coming up and you're thinking, no, I've changed my mind. And then you're having a bit of a flap because you don't want something going up that isn't what you said. What Sky do now is the viewer's verdict, which is a kind of good way. It's a good way out, and it doesn't always correspond with what we're saying, because earlier in the night, the viewer's verdict was that Karasati still, I think, 3-4 rounds had won every round, and that wasn't mine. I thought it was 2-2 after 4 rounds, and I'll say if it's not in line. I think the viewer's verdict through 6 or 7 had Mayer a round up or something like that. It's just a shame when you've got a really, really, really good fight, which it was, and that's all that people are talking about. But I understand why, because if you're Team Mayer, you need to keep that ball rolling. You need to keep that debate raging, because you want the rematch, and I feel like she should get a rematch.
Yeah, which we'll come on to. As you mentioned there, Andy, inevitably we've talked about kind of the decision. We will talk about the fight, because it was an excellent fight. It was very it was a closely contested fight, but I did feel that there were closely contested rounds that I always had, really sort of, particularly after the 4th round, I felt Mayer did the better work. And you mentioned there about kind of, and this is one thing that I'm always sort of wary of when watching it. You do think about the intangibles, which is the fact that Tasha Jonas is at home. That does factor into kind of things. Obviously, it shouldn't in sport,
in an ideal world, it wouldn't. But in the real world, which is the one we're in, then you know that it can make.
That's kind of what I'm saying. At the end of the fight, I had Mayer 6-4, and for me, it was more of a 7-3 Mayer than it ever was a 5-5. Yeah. But because I had it 2-2 after 4, but I felt it could have been 3-1 Mayer after 4. But I felt it was 2-2 after 4. But again, like, a couple of rounds were close in those early stages. But because that, and then because Jonas was competitive in the rounds that she was losing, and there's a difference between losing a competitive round and having a close round that could have gone either way. I thought she lost some competitive rounds. That I thought that, you are in Liverpool, you haven't won it clear enough, you haven't dominated 7 rounds. Like, she won clearly, I thought, probably 5 rounds, and then won a couple of rounds, or 1 or 2 rounds on top of that. But you do have to be wary of those things and factor that in. Well, you don't have to. You should score the fight, but when it comes to the end of the fight, you do think about it. But anyway, now I've waffled about it. Barry, great fight, really good fight between 2 very different styles. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. I think I said the preview was when we didn't do the preview. You might have did it on Sky. I think you did toe to toe.
Did with someone else, didn't I? Fucking great. Toe to toe. Vote for toe to toe. What was it?
Don't vote for toe to toe.
Don't vote for George Groce's. How many podcasts you got in? 3. There you go, more than I'm on.
Hedging the bets.
Anyway, I thought the jab of Jonas was going to be quite important. And it sort of was, because she didn't really land it. as much as I thought she would. I even talked about the left hand of hers, which the power is, but I thought if she could just get that jab into play and just sort of stop Maya from walking up on her, then she would have a lot of success. And then also Maya would punch from two, even though she's tall, she uses that reach really well. She might, if you get the jab right and just keep making a reset, she'll punch from too far out, and then you can start there getting that power into play. I don't think she could quite do it, to be honest. But Maya's just a machine, isn't she? That's what she is. She's relentless. I think she's easy to figure out. I don't think there's much massively variety to what she does. She works the body well and stuff like that. But I mean, you know where she is all the time. She's right in front of you constantly, but she keeps it long. She punches long before she gets in, and I think that's what. And certainly as a super featherweight, made her so dominant because no one could get near her. And even here, people don't know about the weight factor with these two, and she's the bigger girl. She's always been the bigger girl than Natasha's been at moved up the weight before her. So, but she's always been a bigger girl. And they were mentioning. I always thought that, and they mentioned the weights on the day. And Tasha put on a couple of pounds, and she put on like a stone or something, or half a stone.
She looked noticeably bigger in there, didn't she?
But she was like, it wasn't. She wasn't boxing a natural. A welterweight or a natural super welter who's come down. She's boxing another super featherweight like herself, who's just moved up a little bit earlier, and so I don't think that the weight factor was any advantage or disadvantage to her. If anything, it helped her because she's a bigger girl who didn't have to make weight.
Particularly, and in the second half of the fight, you mentioned earlier about it kind of being too close for comfort, really, those early rounds if you're in the Jonas camp, because you know that Maya can come on in the second half of the fight, and Jonas obviously 39 years of age now as well. It's not a spring chicken anymore.
But she dug in Jonas. She landed some good shots as well, and she did rally, and like you said, even the wrong, she was competitive, even the wrong she was losing, she was always fighting back. And look, seeing marks on your face is irrelevant because people mark differently, but I mean, she always looked to win in panic. That's what I felt. Every time there was an exchange, even when she landed with a big shot, she always looked to win in panic. When she got caught, she looked like she was she's never really seriously hurt, I don't think. No. But she looked panicked when she got hit.
She got hit with a right hand in her corner. I can't remember what round it was, early in the fight. I think
got a chopping down right hand.
Yeah, good right hand that sort of backed her up into her own corner. But that was the only time she looked visibly hurt. I felt like as the fight was going on, Andy, that we were seeing more and more of Maya starting the exchanges, Jonas firing back with a right hook or a left hand in the middle of that, and then Maya again finishing the exchanges, which is where I kind of saw Maya taking over in the second half of the fight. Is that how you saw things?
Yeah, I mean, I from where I was sitting, I'll be interested when I watch it back to see if it's one of those fights where I feel like it looks different on TV to how I saw it from sitting at ringside. It could well be, and as we know, you do get a reasonable amount of those. It's not an explanation for discrepancies that people like to hear often, but it's a thing, isn't it? We all know that it is a thing, because I felt at the end like it was close. I did. That was my reaction, and that's what I was thinking as we were going through it. The passages of the fight, first 3 rounds, as we discussed, the scoring of them I think was critical. The middle rounds, pretty easy. The final 3 rounds, it tightened up. It got closer than the middle rounds had been, and some of this can come down to what angle it is that you're seeing it from. So I will be interested to see what I think of it when I watch it back, because TV gives you every possible angle that you could ever want, and you're kind of weighing all this up as you go through.
Or lack of it sometimes.
Yeah. And Maya she was better than I thought she was going to be honest. We knew that she would bring the heat and bring the work rate, but at the same time, I thought she had a bit more variety than I probably gave her credit for with regard to going down to the body. And the size thing is worth mentioning, as Barry did, because with female fighters, they traverse across the weights a lot more readily than the men do. It's easier for them. They're more willing to do it. So working out what is and what is not somebody's best weight is not as simple as, well, Jonas has boxed at super welterweight, so she must be much more of a natural welterweight than Maya, because actually when you looked at their weights, that just isn't true. Jonas is probably optimum weight-wise a super lightweight, because if you make 147 and then put 2 pounds on, and you used to box at super featherweight, you're probably looking at it and thinking 140 is probably your best
somewhere
weight.
In the middle, yeah.
Whereas for Mayo, 147, given that she was 11 stone on the night, you would say that is her best weight.
Barry, what next for both of them, Natasha Jonas and Michaela Meyer? Is it rematch? Do you want to see Natasha Jonas try and unify? What next?
Rematch, I think. I think that would only be. It won't matter. She can go her own way and just forget about Michaela Meyer.
Obviously, one-way rematch.
No, actually, no, you can though. I don't think women's boxing you can, because there's nowhere else to go. Is there? There's only I mean, in men's boxing you can go you can go your own way down another path. And yeah, I'll fight them. And by the time that happens, one of you's lost by then. But the girls, it's a quick turnaround, because there's no who else. Who's Mayer gonna box now? No, who's Jonas gonna? No, there's not many fights for them out there really, and they have to fight regular to get the money. So, and if she's gonna finish at the end of the year, Jonas, that's what she sort of said in her interview. It might be my last year. Then you think you'd want to just, well, she don't need to get it right, does she? But I mean, just prove that you didn't get the luck of the green, that you did win the fight, that you are the better fighter.
And you'd think as well, probably, that the rematch would probably be the best money
That's
fight
what
for
I
her.
was thinking as well.
Yeah.
You think about, like...
There's interest in it.
Yeah, I mean, I know Lauren Price, obviously, in the boxer stable. I'm not sure that's where Jonas will go. Obviously, 39 now. Do you want to be boxing somebody fresh,
Yeah.
like a Lauren Price? I'd probably say no. Is the money going to be there
That's
to
right, the
box
money, innit?
Michaela Meyer?
Because also, with Lauren Price, McCaskill's a free agent these days, I think. So if they wanted to... They could get that fight for Lauren Price, possibly.
Sandy Ryan got a belt at welterweight as well.
Exactly.
But what would you like to see? Would you like to see the rematch? I think
I
the
would.
more I thought about it,
I
the
would.
rematch makes the most sense in my opinion.
Because it was a really, really good fight.
Yeah.
It was a really good fight. There'll be a lot of interest in the rematch. And I do think that probably it will be the most financially rewarding option for her. And if this is her final year, then probably more than anything else, that's what she'll be thinking about. Titles are great, but she's already won 3 at super welterweight. She's a world champion in a second weight. So financially, if it's more rewarding for her to box Mayer again, I think that would be better for her, more valuable to her than maybe picking up a couple more belts if she beat McCaskill, if they box. McCaskill is an absolute handful in a similar kind of way to Mayer, although I would say Mayer's probably better.
Yeah,
much
but
better.
McCaskill, the more natural welterweight, though. Don't you think?
Yeah, but she's so crude.
Yeah.
I mean, especially some of Jonas is a little bit technical, and seeing there, she's a bit patient, so she'll make McCaskill makes so many mistakes. She just dines out on brute strength. McCaskill and Meyer's a good fight. You have two girls who actually dine out on brute strength, but Meyer punches longer, is a little bit neater with the work, so I think she wins that. The thing about the more money, how much more money is it though? That's the thing. It's not going pay-per-view, unfortunately for them. And does it sell more than 7,000? I don't know what the arena was like on Saturday. Does it sell more? I mean, if it's not massively more rewarding financially, they've got to find the money from somewhere. And we all say, oh, it's a rematch and it's a bigger fight for us. It'd be more money, but they still got to get it from somewhere, haven't they?
I know there's another big all-female card planned.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure when for, but there is one planned for this year, and it would just be incredibly obvious thing to do would be to put it on that, and there were big purses on that first one.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean that there will be again, but there were for the first one, weren't there?
Anywhere in the northwest.
But if Jonas not going to get a big enough money to take another risk of potentially losing before she retires, then she might be better off going the other way.
Yeah.
For herself, well, unless you're going to give me X amount, I'm going to go there and pick up these belts for less money, but it's an easier ride, and I'll go down as a unified champion maybe. I don't know, but for us, as fans, we want to see that fight, don't we? Because there's the fights, there's few fights there that are really exciting to watch, and that was one of them, to be honest.
Okay, elsewhere on the undercard, Andy, going to come to you first for the rematch. Jack Cullen versus Zach Chelli 2 went largely the same as the first fight went, albeit this time I felt like there was the right winner on the night. Zach Chelli picking up the British and Commonwealth super middleweight titles in what has to be regarded as a massive win for Zach Chelli.
Huge win for him. Huge, because I think he probably thought the chance to box for the British title had gone after he lost to Jeffers. He was supposed to box for the British that night against Heffron, but he pulled out injured and then he got beaten, and I felt like that chance would disappear. He came back, picked up a win, and the board kind of stuck with him really, because he was supposed to get the chance and didn't get it, which I think if you're Jeffers you could look at that and feel like that's a bit of a nonsense, but at the same time part of me is quite glad that they honoured the agreement, if you like. And it was similar to the first fight. It was similar, and the two cards, all three cards I thought were good cards. There was a 1 point margin, but the other two, there was a 3 point margin and a 4 point margin, and I thought either one of them was about right, which I thought was pretty much what happened in the first fight. Chelli's difficult because if you can't catch him on the way in, then you've got a problem, because he closes that distance really quick. He can only really throw 1, 2, maximum 3 punches as he's coming forward, but he's surprisingly accurate doing it, given that he's never actually looking at where he's throwing them, and he ends up on your shoulder or on your hip because he completely commits to it. So it is quite difficult to counter it. And I guess what you're relying on is seeing him coming and having the necessary reflexes and hand speed to hit him as he's coming forward. And Cullen just really, really struggled to do it all the way through, in a way that Jeffers could do it when those two boxed. So it was very, very frustrating for Cullen, I would imagine, who throughout the week was talking about sticking to the plan. And you could see him really trying to do that, but he just couldn't execute it. He just couldn't do it. And Chelli, he's such a wholehearted campaigner. You know, when you see somebody win a British title and how much it means to all of the fighters to do it, you know, you're always pleased for them. But Cullen will be bitterly disappointed, because it was a hard road for him to that title, and to lose it in your first defence is it's disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, two guys who have really gone about things the hard way. I mean, I went through Zach Chelli's.
I love Chelli's record.
I think he's had 9 proper fights.
Yeah.
In 16 fights?
Starting
or
with
17
Umar Sadiq in an 8
round.
Really
I think he was 3-0 at the time. Or something. It was at the Brentwood Leisure Centre, I remember.
Yeah. And you think about who he's lost to. He lost at light heavyweight. He's never a light heavyweight. He stepped up to light heavyweight and boxed Cody Davis and put him down. I went to that fight, put him down, and then got outdone down the stretch. And he lost to Jeffers. He really does take some handling.
Barry, Zach Chelli versus Jack Cullen. Sort of a scrappy affair. I think we probably expected it to be that. But one of the things that kind of stuck out from me from the performance was the jab of Zach Chelli. I think that was the best that we've seen, the jab from Zach Chelli, and I felt that went a long way to him winning the fight.
I think Cullen just didn't get his distance right, and I think against Heffron he sort of was happy to walk closer and block and counter, and it worked for him, of course. Great finish, but I mean, against Chelli, as sort of Andy was sort of saying, you got him. You know he's going to jump on you. He got the acceleration and pace off the bat is really quick. He jumps into his attacks. So and Cullen's not the fastest to react, I don't feel. So he's always going to beat you. You almost got to give him space, let him come forward. It sounds weird. You got to give him the momentum to come onto you, to catch him coming in. You got to do that. Or if you've got better footwork, you wait for him to come in, and as he jumps in and he gets close enough. Because most of the time it's scrappy if you can see it, and then you pivot or spin. So you just sit down and turn and make him just go everywhere. But literally, you gotta feint to make him throw first, because he's so tense like this that once he commits, he can't stop himself. He's just he'll go right through the ropes. You haven't got no control over his body.
He did a few times at the weekend.
You got no control of his body. You haven't. And also with Cullen, because Cullen in that, he looked like he was pushing his jab out. But if he pushes his jab out, it can go out fast. But it never comes back fast if you push it out. So when you're a tall guy, having that reach is great, but when you don't bring it back really fast, that's a long way to come back. That's a long time and a big space to invite somebody to hit you. And somebody like Chelli throws it overhand right, you haven't got to hit you with it, but you give him the target to hit, it puts you in fear. You're well aware of what's going on, and then all of a sudden he jumps in and throws the left hook instead. So I just think he was a little bit. His reaction times, Cullen, weren't very good. Against someone like Chelli, you've got to have that, or you've got to go right at him and push him back, which he didn't do either. Sort of sat in that, not mid-range, but he sat a little bit too close that he should have, like as if the intention to sort of work and try and bully him a little bit, and catch him, catch and counter, whatever you want to call it. But he didn't do that, and he didn't really work beyond the jab fast enough. The jabs were landing, but they weren't on enough on him, and then. He just didn't really box as good as he could have, I don't felt. But Chelli boxed better than I thought as well. With Chelli, he's going to commit. Everything he throws everything into, he's going to keep throwing. But he's crude. And he deserves a win. He won the fight. He thought he won the first one. But he won this one, and he gets and just a great story for him, really is. Him and his lunatic dad.
him and his lunatic dad, who did make an appearance in his post-fight
good luck to
post-fight
him.
interview, but wasn't the man in the corner, wasn't training this time. Barry O'Connell, of course, in the corner. Did you notice any discernible changes
I
any
think the fact that
differences
you're trying to keep his structure, that's going to take time now. You can't just have him for a little while and turn him around. But he was using the jab better and things like that, because usually the jab for him is just like almost like not even a punch. He was supposed to jump in with left hooks. I've seen him in boxing like a 15-year-old in a hotel in Heathrow years ago, and he's exactly the same then he was. He hasn't changed. I don't think he'll ever change. He was big. He was muscular for his age, but he was really fast and explosive. And people go, "You want to watch this kid?" And I go, "Well, yeah, he's good to watch." But there's a million flaws you can pick out of why he's going to get why he wouldn't succeed as an amateur at the higher level, because he could be totally a box, because he's a massive target to hit. Because when he's jumping into attacks, he takes his arms away from his body, and then he's just a massive target to hit. And the amateur boxing with fast feet and not loading up on punches, you just go bump, 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 and off you go. And that's maybe what Cullen should have tried to do. I'll tell you something though, Jeffers beats him again. I mean, if Jeffers should be calling out for that title shot now. I would if I was him, because he boxed really good on the night as well, I thought.
He did, yeah, which we'll come on to and talk about his bout with Jermaine Brown. Andy, going to come to you. I spoke for about 10 minutes after the fight with a certain Callum Simpson, who was licking his lips in anticipation of getting a shot at the British super middleweight title. Do you think that could be next for Zach Chelli?
I think it is next. When you look at the board circulars, what's the phrase they use? The winner to waive grace and defend against Callum Simpson. So that's what is next. And yeah, he said the same thing to us on Sky, that basically he looks at Zach Chelli and feels that he's really average and they'll beat him comfortably. But I think loads of people think that when they watch him, and that when you get in there with him, it's a different story, because he does what he does. And like Barry said, he first saw him when he was a teenager, and he's still the same now. And Cullen said during the week, "You're still the same. You've not got anything different to your game from that last fight, whereas I'm much better." And I do believe he is a lot better now, Cullen, but he still wasn't able to handle Zach Chelli. So Callum Simpson, he could get a bit of a shock on the night. That's entirely possible, because somebody having quite an obvious style, having that "here's what I do, now you try and stop me" approach, in a way it's a simple task because you know what's coming, but in a way it's not, because you might feel like you know how to deal with it, but if you get in there and then it turns out that you don't, then you've got a big problem. So he's definitely not a task that should be underestimated, Chelli, and I don't feel like Simpson will. He's a confident guy, and he's going to say something like that, but I think they'll be well aware that this is somebody who, if you have a slight off night, he's very consistent with what he brings, Chelli. I did feel like he dipped against Jeffers, but because of the situation, the circumstances. But Jeffers, did that to him as well. And the change of trainer, I asked him about it during the week, and I was quite kind of blunt with him. I did say, listen, I think it's kind of good that you've done it, because your dad was poor in the corner against Jeffers. He just kept telling you were winning and you weren't, and you didn't really have any direction. Asked him how that relationship was, and he said it was fine, and you saw him in the post-fight interview, but I did think he needed to make that change.
Sort of like we speak about it, though. We love a mad dad on the boxing show. Absolutely love it.
Key to success.
We spoke about it so many times in the past, haven't we, where it's like sometimes that chaos can work for you, and if it's all you've known, as it has been the case with Chelli, and it's all you've really known the whole time, sometimes taking him away from that can be quite alien. But I did feel like it worked for him at the weekend. I felt that what you've said there.
He don't seem like a chaos kid, does he?
He doesn't.
You know what I mean? Like he doesn't seem, but he boxes like one. The thing with him, why he's a hard fight for everybody, is nothing deters him. So like you might have success, but he's still going to come and do the same thing. You might have beat him in the last fight, but you still know that every round he's going to be doing that until he can't do it anymore. So he's a physically hard fight constantly. I don't think he's massively difficult to train for. You just got to get yourself mentally right. It's going to be a tough, hard fight, and he's going to hit you because he is fast. He does explode in his punches, so you're not going to get that right all the time unless you got loads of power and you can bully him. That's the thing. So Callum Smith thinks he has loads of power. It looks like he does carry a bit of weight, but he's not the full article either. I do like him actually, but he's not the full article. He stands up tall a little bit. There's plenty of things there that that Chelli. If he stands up tall and Chelli swings that right hand
Big
over.
overhand right,
He
he's
throws
right,
that right
yeah.
hand. When he throws that right hand, his head and all his body goes over to the left. So all the weight's in that shot. He takes all the momentum with him. So like he lands with that, he can do a lot of damage. I don't think he's a massive puncher, Chelli. He's not.
Where does he lose his power, Barry? Sorry to interrupt, because he throws so much into his shots. You mentioned there, but he's not a puncher. You're not really seeing him be a puncher throughout his career. Where does he lose that? It's just he's not connected properly.
Never connected to the floor, are they?
There's no real technique. I think sometimes you can you get the weight of the shot by swinging like a lunatic, but you're lacking accuracy with the gloves. Sometimes there's no proper acceleration. It might be fast, but there's no proper acceleration, no push on it. So if you're not using if it's not coming from your feet, you're not pushing off, then you're never going to get that explosive power that you want. And also his body, and the way he throws, the way he overcommits, his body's twisting against itself at times. You know what I mean? Like he could end up throwing a shot here, looking over there. You know, it's like that'll take away the sting of the shot. Same as you talk about guys like these big heavyweights, and they punch and they're heavy, and you see it, you hit it on the bag, and it goes bam, bam, bam. You can take those all day. I couldn't. No, but I mean, the heavyweights can. Yeah, it's the ones that go whap with a bit of weight, and if you can get that snap and the weight, and they push into it as well. That's a puncher. Some people have naturally heavy hands. Some people have their natural mechanics, and they just move their body naturally. But you get that in every sport. That's what makes you good. But I mean, yeah, for him, he commits to every shot, so there's weight in a punch, but they sometimes lack the accuracy, and also I think his body just works against itself at times.
You can brace yourself as well when you can see it coming.
You're
not going to get caught by a shot you don't see, really.
I do kind of admire the way he fights, though, because it is a real commitment, and it is risky, because it's almost like he's on the outside and it's right, wait.
Yeah.
Deep breath, here I go. And at some point, someone's going to catch him on the way and then knock him out.
Yeah, which could be Callum Simpson.
As he goes up in the levels, or again, maybe against Callum Simpson. Every time he does that, wait, pull the trigger, here I go. He's taken his, maybe not his life in his hands, but every time he does that, he could get caught on the way in and not clean out.
The problem with him is what you do. You want to neaten him up. Think of, I get you nice and neat. You work behind it, go jab your way in. Yeah. Then it takes away his unorthodox style that scares opponents, or makes him wary because they know he's going to jump. And if you start jumping all over him, starts working behind a structured jab or a structure itself, then he might just be easy to a box.
Yeah, you just take away. Like,
it's a weird thing, isn't it?
It's that thing we always talk about it, don't we?
With leave him alone.
With trainers inheriting fighters, you don't change them too much. It's just, he's what he is.
Yeah, it's that. It's like you leave him alone. You're right. Sort of like he is where he is. Then you're sort of like saying, this is your level.
Yeah.
Well, and it probably is his level, which is a fantastic level. But I mean, this is your level. Just keep bashing away the way you're doing now, and then in the end, then your body's going to give up on itself. You're going to lose a step, and then that's it. You'll retire. The same for everyone, but I mean, you want to work on yourself.
Yeah, once that explosivity's gone, then that's kind of it, then, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to work on yourself. It's that risk of taking away something that you're good at. I've mentioned this all the time, don't we? Adding stuff is good, but if it takes away any of your natural strengths, your superpowers, then get rid of it. We talk about the anti-Joshua syndrome, about adding to his game, but losing what made him what he was. So you want to keep what you are, but just trim around the edges is probably a better term.
Yeah, I think another thing he does, which is really kind of valuable for him, is that with that kind of machine gun staccato style, it could kind of infect your opponent, can't it? And all of a sudden, they're almost doing what you're doing. They're waiting for you to do what you do, and then they're having to respond to that, and everything becomes this just kind of like wait, mad flurry of action, where not loads lands clean, and then reset and you go again, and you just keep doing that over and over and over again. And if you do that, then he'll probably beat you, because that's what he does. So he is tricky. He is.
You've got to do what Jeffers did. Jeffers went in, out, and back in again. The sort of thing like that. So you got to be prepared to block.
I remember you breaking that one down, and it kind of I'd been trying to work out kind of exactly how he did it, and you just kind of like paint such a good picture of it, because I think the way he described it was that he was aiming at this rectangle all of the time, because when Chelli comes forward, he will be somewhere in that doorway. Yeah. You don't know where exactly, but he'll be coming through that door. His head could be up here, it could be down there, but he'll be coming through that door. And when he did it, Jeffers hit him somewhere, and it was and it was enough to beat him quite handily, wasn't it?
It was. Are we going to move on and talk about
that? Oh, that was good.
We're going to move on and talk about Mark Jeffers. We do have to hurry up because we've lost a little bit of time. Shout out the shout out the fire alarm on a Monday morning. Lovely. And we will talk about Mark Jeffers and Jermaine Brown. Sorry, 1 second. Andy, we watched it together on the. Well, it's not before the bell. Before the broadcast show.
Before the bell. Shout out Matchroom.
Shout out Matchroom.
Any work? Thanks for not picking me for Saturday.
We send you to. You're going to Arizona, aren't you?
Not with them. Zone, isn't it?
Shout out to Zone. Anyway, yes, Andy, we watched it, and I think it kind of went largely how we expected, didn't it? Mark Jeffers and Jermaine Brown, two guys who like to kind of box on the outside, but I thought it was a competitive fight where Mark Jeffers was just ahead pretty much from the opening bell to the last.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, and we both kind of thought that would be what would happen. Jermaine Brown's a good fighter. He's won an English title, and that's the kind of level he's at. I would say he was challenging for it again against Jeffers, who he does really interest me, Jeffers, because I didn't know much about him at all before he boxed Chelli, but I remember going to Champs Camp for the open workouts and having a chat with Michael Jennings and Jeffers himself, and he's one of these people who, mentality-wise, I think he definitely has it. He just seems to have that edge about him, and I like it when during announcements you see fighters kind of prowling around the ring, muttering to themselves and punching themselves in the face, which is what he was doing. You wonder about his punching power maybe as he tries to go up a little bit. I think he had a hand problem and injury early in the fight. I saw him say yesterday, which won't have helped him. But in terms of his boxing career at title level, which is where he's been for the last two fights, it's still very early days. So there's a lot that could happen with him yet. But he seems, like I say, mentally, he seems like he's got what you need. He seems calm, utterly confident. His self-belief seems like it's there and that it's real. And physically, he looks strong, and technique-wise, he looks pretty good. So there's a lot to like about it.
A lot to like about him, indeed, Barry.
Yeah, I'm a
Mark
big fan.
Jeffers.
Big fan. I like him. I think potentially he's his footwork's really good, but potentially he can be excellent. I think the power. I was thinking that just when Andy mentioned it. But I think that might at that weight that might hold him back. But I do think it's about, because his feet are fast and he's in and out, so he throws his punches. He's busy, but you don't get too greedy. So he'll throw the right amount of shots, take a step back and come back again, like he did against Chelli, then against Brown quite easily. So he can control the space because his feet are quite good. Without being, he's not a dancer, but I think he knows where he is. He got the right distance all the time, and he can jump into shots. I just think sometimes he's looking to get back before he's really put purchase on the punches. I know what that's like. I made a career out of it. But I mean, I think that's what probably takes away a bit of the power. Just actually, he's punching the target, not actually just really committing that extra couple of inches through it. Just sits a little bit longer. He has more time, but he's young and he'll understand that when he's retired. But you got more time to sit down on the shots and still do the same work in the same time frame, but not as quick. That makes no sense, but it's perfect sense. You know what I mean? You don't realise you rush it too much a little bit, but apart from that, I think he's potentially brilliant. That's why I think if he fights Chelli again, he does the same job on Chelli. Maybe not physically easier, but I think he wins more clearly. And I think he's one of those kids just needed an opportunity. I didn't know who he was, to be honest. Till he boxed Chelli, you can't watch every boxer and know who every boxer is.
No, me too. I'd heard his name, but I didn't.
Well, I'd never heard his name. I know, but I saw him. You can't know everyone. But I watched him, and you thought you see his record. You go, that's not bad little record, but Chelli should do a job on him. And I was just really shocked. And I thought how brilliant he was. And then against Brown, who's another good fighter. Well, again, we'll see where his level's at now, because Brown's a good fighter who could put you in. You think, I'm going to be like, I should be boxing for the British title, and then Brown puts you in your place because he got a good jab, good structure, and he dealt with him. I don't disrespect Brown, but he dealt with him comfortably. And I think it's all about his footwork, where he is. The balance is great. Combination punches. You don't get greedy, like I said. Don't get greedy with his work. He knows the right amount of punches to throw. Just sitting down a little bit longer. That's all. That's all he needs to do. And if he does that and gets knocked out, I'll feel terrible. But yeah, and I think potentially he's fantastic. I think there's loads more they could do with him as well. I think
good fight, and I think got the sort of style as well that I think it's going to be interesting to see when he goes up the levels, because if he can do that and that kind of relaxed style that he has, the higher up the levels he goes, he might be a very, very good
you've got to
fighter.
say he's British level.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
He
Win over the British champion.
Literally just the fight before he won the British title. You can't go no better than that. Well, you can beat him for the British title.
Beat him for the title, yes.
I do. You look at potential matchups. Obviously, we've seen him box Chelli already, but let's just say Callum Simpson beats Zach Chelli. That's a big if, but let's just say he does. Jeffers against Simpson again is a really interesting fight, because Simpson has got heavy hands, but he is off balance a lot when he throws, and he does tend to kind of rush in, and you feel like there are gaps there that could be exploited definitely by somebody like Jeffers with the style that he's got. So that could be a really good fight.
And I don't know what he's like for selling tickets. I don't know.
Pretty good, I think.
Yeah. So Sky and Boxer, that might be a holster back, I think.
Potentially. One or two people felt he was slightly unfortunate to not make the main broadcast. Of course,
yes.
Aaron McKenna's bout with Linus Udoka was originally, you can see why, he was originally part of the broadcast.
I think it would have been unfair.
Would have been harsh on Aaron McKenna
to take him off the TV
drop him
slots.
down.
He was already disappointed by losing the opponent.
Yeah. But hopefully that's a fight we can see. Obviously had a win this weekend.
It could take Karras off though. I understand the winning thing, but I mean, but no, just talk about boxing. I don't care about that. Just boxing in general. You know, I mean, Karras is boxed for a title or something, then of course she's got to go on there. But
I felt that the Jeffers Brown fight was the fight. Well, the 3 fights that I was very much 4 fights. I was very much
we got to watch. We got to watch.
One got rid of them. But yeah, anyway, we
got on
to
YouTube anyway. You got to watch it. It was easy for me to watch that.
Then it was the main.
Yeah, so I can watch that. I watched that on the toilet.
Okay, before he goes any
Jeff
further,
is a toilet favourite of mine.
Before he goes any further and tells us where he watches the boxing, we're going to move on to this weekend, Barry, for the return of Jaime Munguia and John Ryder's latest Mexican adventure, albeit not in Mexico, but in Arizona, as he faces off against Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia, 42-0, former world champion. Still not really sure how good he is, though, for me.
No, it's weird, isn't it? Because, like, actually, I saw this before. I thought, what's happened to Munguia? Because, like, they were, like, when he was, like, 19 or something, 21, what does he know? 25 now, maybe?
27.
27. When he was like 21, they were saying he's going to be, this is the new god of boxing sort of thing. This is the one. And then I sort of think he went really stale. But actually, when you look at his record, he still boxed good fighters, haven't he? Actually, but it's just taken too long. Understand it? But he ticks every box. He can punch. He could put decent box. He's really exciting to watch. It was the fight of the year, actually, last year he was in. So it's like, but yeah, I'm like you. I'm still not quite sure if he is the real deal at the very top level. I don't know. We might find out on Saturday.
I was going to say, this is the exact type of fight, isn't it? Yeah, this is exactly that type of fight to find out how good he is.
But it's also, this might be the worst possible fight for Ryder at this stage of his career.
Why'd you say that?
Just the energy. This Ryder's never shown anything but loads of energy, loads of fitness, and he can dig out and all that stuff. But I just mean, I think Munguia is a different, the relentless pressure. Ryder's going to have to hit him with some really hard to stop him from. I'm not sure whether he can. I just think. Listen, he did so well against Canelo. He didn't win it. I mean, say he did so well, he didn't win a round. But I mean, really, did he? But I mean,
did on some of the cards, not on mine.
No, but I mean, but he was. But
it was his attitude, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was competitive and he showed plenty of heart in that fight. He hurt a lot of times, and he was fiery. Yeah.
But Canelo, a much better boxer than Munguia, of course, and I'll say that at a higher level, picks his shots. Munguia does, but Munguia will wheel the shots.
Tries to overwhelm you.
Yeah, and I think it makes for a great fight. I'm going there, luckily, but I mean, it makes for a great fight. But I think ultimately, that's what wears Ryder down, because he's going to have to just do so much from the first round to the last, if it goes that long, that by the end of it, he's the one who's making the more mistakes. He's the one with the bigger gaps, and he's the one who's getting pummeled. I hope I'm wrong, actually. Please don't watch this and say I think I hate you. No, I hope I like him. He's a nice fella, and he's done it. And he's done it relatively. He's done, with the backing of a big promoter still. Let's not forget that. But he's done it relatively the hard way.
Yeah, he's gone the long route for sure.
Yeah,
took the scenic route.
But I do fancy Munguia to get a stoppage, actually late. I do. I just think his relentless pressure is going to be too much. I think the power that the Ryder can cope with the power. I just think he just gets over. It just slowly beats him down.
Andy, Barry just mentioned there about Munguia Derevianchenko last year, which was one of the best fights of the year, if not the best fight of the year. It was a fight that we saw him hurt a few times in that. Sergei Derevianchenko, not known as a massive puncher, of course, naturally middleweight. I mean, Munguia come through the weights, of course. But Ryder, albeit on the back of a loss to Canelo Alvarez, his stock, I think, went up in that performance. Does he take heart? Does he take hope, I guess, from the Derevianchenko performance and feel like he can get to Munguia? Because he's not, for all of his freshness and his overwhelming kind of offensive nature, not the hardest to hit, Jaime Munguia.
No, he isn't, and I think that's the kind of fight that could possibly take something off you. I mean, not possibly, it will. It's just a matter of how much. And I give Ryder a good chance, I think, against Munguia. But again, what's that Canelo fight taken away from him? Not just physically, but also mentally, because he's had a long career, John. There's been plenty of ups and downs, and mentally, I think it's been quite a tough one for him at times as well. Because at key points, fights that he looked like he was going to win, he hasn't. You look at Nick Blackwell's a great example. He was boxing so well in that fight, then got caught, and all of a sudden he's lost, and the trajectory of your career completely changes. So he's had a lot to kind of, like Barry said, he's been with Matchroom pretty much the whole way through. There was that point though where he had to go away on the World Boxing Super Series card and got the knockout win against Nielsen, and that was really what sparked his career back into life. Yeah. So he has, as he said, in many ways, he has done it the hard way. And now that he's boxed Canelo and he's made that money, where's he at, kind of desire-wise? And he probably won't even know that himself, maybe, until he gets deep into a fight. I cannot ever see John kind of just not coming out of his corner. But if Tony feels like that it's the right thing to do is to put your hand on his shoulder and keep him on the stool, then obviously he'll do it. That for me would kind of be the question. Off the back of boxing Canelo, subconsciously some ambition can maybe go, some fire can maybe go, because they're all in it to make money and make a living. And I don't know what he got paid for that fight, but it would have been a lot, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Somebody, I asked about a Munguia Ryder prediction on Twitter, and somebody, how true this is, I don't know. Somebody said, I'm going to go for Munguia by stoppage because I saw John Ryder in Waitrose the other week, and any fighter shopping in Waitrose is too comfortable. Which is, if it's true, it's actually...
Wow, that's interesting. Is there's a kind of like levels to that game.
I saw my missus that. Could they deliver to her? I was going to go in the shop. Yeah. I mean, I'm skinned.
He hasn't gone full Andy Ruiz and turned up with kind of like sparkly diamond encrusted trainers, like
no
press conference for the rematch against Asia.
But he had one title, and that he's been close, obviously, the Callum Smith fight, but that might be the thing now. He's earned some money. He might have earned enough, certainly with that last one, and it might just be that I've still got that one last thing to go, and this is the fight that that gets me there, sort of thing. So it might just be that one last thing, that push. I just think I don't know why this always turns out. Cause in close, hard fights, the Canelo fight wasn't close, but in a really hard fight, the winner always seems the loser struggles. Quite often, the loser struggles after. It takes more out of the loser. Even in a close fight, which is hardly fought, it takes more out of the loser for some reason. Even though the winners had to go do the same amount of work, take almost like the Munguia Derevianchenko fight. You still have to take loads of punches and work hard for it, but then you've won the fight for some reason. It gives you that weird thing that you just go on from it. You don't take that much from you. But it seems to be the case. I don't know. There's no science to that, of course. But that. Beat him, I suppose it was against the Canelo thing.
It was. He had his nose broken in I think the third or fourth round.
That's what I can see. I don't think he's going to be that badly damaged, but I can just see him being battered and bruised and trying and firing back in late in the fight, and just not having the energy to compete anymore, because he's had to compete in every round that way.
And also 2 different ages for them as well. Both had hard fights last time, but you've got Munguia's 27, Ryder's 35.
Yeah,
they're different stages of their careers to be having hard fights.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see him get a really good fight off the back of that.
We kind of all suspected it, didn't we?
You'd imagine that this will still be I'm sure this will be by distance the second best purse of his career.
You would imagine so, yeah. We kind of all anticipated either a Balanga or maybe not Benavidez or somebody like
Yeah.
that, a measuring stick. With all due respect to John Ryder, that's clearly the case here with Munguia.
And I guess the problem with wanting to win a world title at super middleweight is that kind of relies on Canelo vacating.
Yeah, and then
it?
you might get to box like David Benavidez or David Morrell.
Yeah.
Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Big whoop. Yeah, exactly.
But that is clearly the play here from Golden Boy. You've got, I mean, Ryder, by all accounts, you know, he was very well received by the Mexicans for his performance. It was a very gritty performance from him.
They love the bravery. Everybody does, but they love the bravery.
So if Munguia can go in there and he can force a late stoppage on John Ryder, then that's a big win for him at this stage of his career. And that's something that can, you know, everyone is in the Canelo sweepstakes, kind of seemingly from welterweight up to heavyweight. You know, if he stops John Ryder, that's as good an advert for maybe not anybody. Take Benavidez out of it, but look, he went the distance with him, and I put him away.
Because that validation that Mayweather, that De La Hoya's been praising since day one.
Yeah.
This is the kid who's going to take over boxing, sort of thing, and maybe this might be the start of it. I don't see it that way, but it will. But I just think that Ryder's cute and what people give him credit for, and he's good and he can fight inside really well, but maybe he won't have that success against Munguia. That's what I'm worried about.
Is that how he has to approach the fight, getting on the inside? Because we've seen in the past Munguia's been outboxed at times, and you know he can be. Obviously, he can be hit, as we saw in the Derevyanchenko fight, but that was kind of a war. But we've seen in the past, you know, Dennis Hogan outboxed him.
Yeah.
You know, that was a very, very close fight.
Yeah.
You know, he can be. How, if you're in Tony Sims's camp, how do you look at it and how do you go about things?
You want to try and get that. You want to get that southpaw jab into play as quick as you can, of course. But I just ultimately, Ryder's not going to dance around the ring, is he?
No.
Popping out the jab, he's just not going to do it. So you've got to box to your strength. So he is going to, in the end, I think he'll come from a decent structure, and and I think his hands will be a bit higher. He won't do so much that chucking him beyond the shoulders much. But he is going to have to push him back ultimately, because whatever you're going to get Ryder to do, if he's just standing there trying to just punch for punch, then I think he loses that battle. I think he'll win that battle, but then there'll be too many punches coming back for him in the end, and then he'll have to fire back, which he might catch Munguia coming forward. He carries a bit of power, Ryder. But I mean, ultimately, he's going to have to go at him. I think try and push him back. But I just don't see how it works for him.
Andy, we've seen in recent times. I mean, as recently as earlier this month with Callum Smith and Artur Beterbiev, kind of Brits going abroad for quite big jobs, really. You know, big missions, I suppose. Is this one of those, or do you think this is the level below that? I think it's, from my perspective, potentially a level below Smith going to box Beterbiev in Quebec, but it is still a big away day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not quite that, but it is still a big ask, and it's kind of interesting that it maybe doesn't get the attention that it should, which in a way is indicative of the fact that our fighters are taking these fights on this kind of stage, which is a good thing, but also it kind of illustrates the fact that fights can tend to move under the radar a bit more now than maybe they used to. So it's definitely it's actually a hard job for him. It's definitely a hard job for him. But I'm ever the optimist, and I really like John, basically, because I'm not going to say I've covered his career all the way through. We're best pals, because we're not. I hardly ever see him, but quite a few of my early fights were John Ryder fights, and I just always enjoyed watching him. And you watch someone and you kind of hope that with all of them, you kind of hope that they get more out of this sport than it takes from them. And when he got that Canelo fight, you think, okay, good, he's going to finish ahead. Yeah, he's going to finish ahead now.
Whatever happens.
Yeah,
he's a nice kid and all. He's a good man.
Yeah.
But he is a nice bloke, and he shouldn't. I mean, you can't judge a fight on that, but I mean, you can judge who you want to win on that. And for that, you want him to win for that, because I don't know, Munguia might be the loveliest man on the planet as well. But I mean, no, John's a nice bloke. You know, he's a decent bloke. Even though he's in the life of sort of a party, I don't know, he might be, but to me, a few times I've met him, he's always been just very polite, normal, have a conversation with him. And yeah, and don't scream and shout like an idiot to try and to heighten his profile. Doesn't do all that. Doesn't sell his soul, by the way. Just does what he does. You know, I'm a boxer. This is what I want to do, and give me the opportunity, and I'll show you. And to be fair, even in his defeats, I did the Saunders fight back in 2015. I want to say maybe 13 was it? But one of my early fights, and well, he lost. I thought he lost. I thought they had the right winner, but it was
Clear winner in a close fight.
Yeah,
we were talking about earlier,
exactly,
weren't we?
But it was close. He pushed the kid, but let's not forget, they was talking about Billy Joe was going to be the next big thing,
that was when
and
Billy
he was
on
the
it.
next big thing. But yeah, Billy was flying, so it was.
And that was a Warren show, and he was a Matchroom fighter.
mate,
So he has been backed, but he's been in the away corner a reasonable amount of times.
That yielded the infamous Queensberry statement about Barry Hearn and Eddie turning up with the Rolls Royce and stuff. If you haven't checked that out, it's still on Boxing Scene. Yeah, that's a brilliant. The greatest press release in the history.
Barry
of
was
boxing.
screaming. He saw John Wayne. He was screaming that like.
Yeah, I
Barry,
remember. Yeah, I remember. But yeah, I mean, just kind of look through John Ryder's resume. Now, you think he lost to Jack Arnfield. That fight with Adam Etchers that he won, there was a lot on that. He won it and then went and lost to Rocky Fielder next time out, so he didn't necessarily make the most of it. But he has kind of he's been up and down, hasn't he? Like
I did that fight, and it was you walked away from it, and you just thought, is he ever really going to get there? Because that was another British title fight. I think it was his third at that point, maybe. And you just think, I'm not sure if he's ever really going to get there. And then he sparked back into life with that win against Nielsen, beat Jamie Cox, didn't he? I think on another big night, and then it did go his way against Callum Smith, and you just think to yourself, he could get kind of frozen out a bit now. Yeah. So that was great to see him. Like I say, he hasn't won a world title, but boxing Canelo is, in a lot of ways, better because financially it is what it is.
What do you want to do? Do you want to box? I mean, you boxed Canelo. I mean, obviously Canelo had titles at the time, and come up short in that fight. Would you win a vacant title against somebody for 5%, 10% of the money that you could have earned there? Is particularly when you get to. I think if you asked a fighter that maybe in their early 20s,
depends when it happens.
And then
they won whatever they haven't got.
Yeah,
that's
the truth. That's a good point. They obviously had the very close fight with Callum Smith, which I felt he was hard done by. I thought he beat Callum Smith, but I did think that Danny Jacobs beat him. So he's had a very interesting up and down
career. If you
career.
box for long enough, that's what happens, isn't it? And like Barry said right at the start, it doesn't ever make it. It's not a justification for somebody maybe getting a decision that the other fighter should have got. But if you box for long enough, that is what will probably happen, is that you'll get one night where one doesn't go your way and you'll feel like the entire world is against you, and then you'll get another one night where it does, and you probably won't reflect as much on the night where it does as you do on the night where it doesn't, and that's the world, really.
Yeah, when you've boxed at a good level, which he has for the best part of, he made his pro debut in September of 2010, and you're going to run into a few ups and downs in your career.
But it's a really hard night for him. But it's not an unwinnable fight. No. By any stretch of the imagination. So he's not going. It's not one of those. It's not going to be. We're not going to be talking about this as one of the best wins abroad or anything like that. It's good. It's a fantastic win. It really is, and he's up against it. Whatever in the world it would be, he's up against it. I think a little bit, but I think he has the tools to cause him problems. I do think and if he win, it wouldn't be a massive shock if he come away with a win. But I just think Munguia's stage of their career, the energy he has. I just think a stage, and I just. Banking on, I don't know this, on where Ryder is right now, his age, and after the last fight, I don't know whether he can stay with him.
They've done a pretty good job with Munguia as well, Golden Boy as well. I'm sure that mean an awful lot to Oscar De La Hoya, me saying that. But they've matched him well because he has had his limitations. I mentioned earlier on about the Dennis Hogan fight, and they've kind of steered him in a good way, really. But this is a somebody said the other day, it feels very, very strange to say it for 42-0 fighter. It's something of a crossroads fight for him. It's a very important fight for him. He loses this fight, it'll be very difficult, I think. I mean, his name and everyone will kind of keep him in some sort of big fight picture, so to speak. But that's the flip side of fighting somebody who Canelo did win pretty much every round against, albeit didn't stop. Yes, if you stop him, you look great. But if you lose to him or you have a close, hard fight for him, then it can go the other way, can't it?
I think so. And if you were to lose, then all of a sudden they look at his record and go, like you said, you've been very well matched. Yeah. All these fighters at the end of their career, a little bit too small for you. You bought, you took Liam Smith there, one really big. You were too big for him, really. And all of a sudden they start you can pick holes in it. But if he wins, he's been well matched, haven't he? We've just been grooming him to get to the top. It's taken longer than what we thought, but he's here now.
And that's still,
for me, did the same thing with Ramirez, didn't they?
Yeah.
Just a massive, long, unbeaten stretch and a good fighter. But then he got the really big fight against Bivol and he lost.
It's still, by some distance, in my opinion, his best win as well, Liam Smith, which is July of 2018. God, didn't realise it was that long ago.
Yeah.
That makes me feel
Yeah,
very
yeah.
old. But anyway, moving on. Staying with this
You
weekend.
know you're old when 2018 doesn't seem long ago.
Yes. Moving on to this weekend, over to Belfast for the return of Lewis Crocker. Barry, I know you're an admirer of Lewis Crocker.
the
Good
most
performance last time out, and he's in a real fight this weekend against Jose Felix.
Yeah, he is. I know. Yeah, he is a guy. This is a fight you got. This is a guy that he's going to hit you when you hit him back. He boxed a lunatic in Tyler McKenna, who's a what a great guy. He's been
lunatic in the most
fight,
lovely
that.
way.
he's brilliant, isn't he? He's just
Outdoors at full spot. I was there for that. That was a good fight.
but he's just literally he's been great to watch. But Crocker hit a guy there who stage of his career who did fire back, but not with the same intensity that Felix might have. So it's a danger fight for him. But I think he comes through with flying colours. Actually, I think he hits really hard. I mean, really hard. I just think he hasn't got the snap in the shots yet. You can hear that. I've been ringside to quite a lot of his fights, and you can hear the shot. You can hear the weight in it. So every time he hits somebody, they know that even if they take it, they know they've been hit, and that's what he's winning fights on points sometimes because of that. Because no one wants to throw any punches back. You think, throwing a punch against him. He just needs to get a little bit more torque in the shots, and then literally people are going to sleep like they were early in his career. He's good though, and what he showed against McKenna is that he can keep that energy late in the fight, so that makes him really hard to beat. Just needs to get a little bit defensively, a little bit better, and against Felix, could be careful that he doesn't get caught coming forward, makes a mistake, he gets caught with a good shot. But I think he's naturally a bigger guy,
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
much bigger. And I think he does a good job on him, actually. Home as well. No, with the crowd. I don't think that influences with the judges. I mean, with the crowd on his back now, he's trying to build a little bit of fortress now, and I think he does a good job.
Trying to build a fortress, indeed, Andy. We've all spoken about it.
They've had to change the venue, so I don't know what sort of fortress it's going to be.
We've all spoken about it in the last probably 18 months or so. Belfast, fantastic place to watch boxing. Obviously, a boxing mad city, one of the boxing maddest cities, or maddest boxing cities anyway. Is Lewis Crocker potentially going to be the guy to bring big time boxing back over there? Obviously, you've got Paddy Donovan on the undercard. Kevin Agyarko just had a good win, and you've got Katie Taylor taking shows to Dublin. But could Crocker or that sort of mix of Crocker, Donovan, Agyarko, could they be the ones to bring consistent boxing back to Belfast?
Well, they'll all want to claim that, won't they? Because there is a vacancy there. There is a vacancy there because obviously it was Frampton for a good stretch. Ryan Burnett, Michael Cullen. We'll wait and see what happens with Michael. But there is a need, I think, for somebody to pick up that flag and be their standard bearer. And Crocker has got as good a chance of doing it as anybody else, I would say. I mean, is he from Belfast? Is that right? And that's that gives him a head start straight away, doesn't it? Over Paddy Donovan, for example, who isn't from Belfast. Agyarko is, so it's kind of between those two, really, you would say. And if you can do that, then it does give you having that solid home fortress. Number one, makes you really attractive for your promoter, but number two, as discussed, it is an advantage on the night. It is an advantage in that it gets into you and fuels you. The support can really help in deep in a tough fight, from what I'm told, and it might give you the old nudge on the cards too. So if you're a Crocker, you've got to be eyeing that up and just thinking, I want to be the next person who, when I announce the fight in Belfast, everybody, that becomes a must see.
Not an easy fight this weekend, though, against Jose Felix. Again, we're pretty familiar with him now, obviously from the Tyron McKenna fight, and, of course, the Gary Cully fight, a spectacular win. Lewis Crocker, albeit the bigger man and unbeaten, has to mind himself this weekend and has to be on his P's and Q's, because Jose Felix, admittedly not a welterweight, predominantly boxed his career down at 135 pounds, 31 knockouts in 40 wins. You can't take that for granted.
No, and he's very experienced. He's been around the block. He's boxed on a lot of big promotions in America. I think he was with Top Rank for a good stretch, wasn't he? As a fighter who they probably knew wasn't going to get right to the top, but who gave good value. Obviously, a really, really good professional, because you're not going to box for the amount of time that he has at the level that he has if you don't really pay attention to the details and live the life. So if you underperform against somebody like him, you can find yourself in trouble. So yeah, as you say, he's got to make sure he stays absolutely on top of his performance. And at this stage of his development, I don't see any potential for real complacency there.
It's just the greediness, isn't it? That's the worry. If like we say, what you do after you throw a punch. I think for him, it might be he hits him with a big shot, and then reins in. But Felix might just throw anyway because he's a nice smooth rhythm puncher. So he might just throw. Even if he gets caught, he's just going to throw. And that's the worry. That's my only worry with Crocker. Is that he gets caught like coming in, or throws that extra what he didn't need to throw. Just takes him a little bit off balance, and he gets clipped in. I think he takes a good shot, but against a big puncher, you don't matter if you take a good shot. If that shot hits you and you don't see it, you're done. But I do think that he does a good job. Though I think he boxes well. And he's boxing with the jab a little bit better as well. They might get Billy Nelson some credit for that. We don't like to give Billy much credit, but we'll give him some.
Shout out Billy Nelson.
But yeah, so I think he might be a little bit more structured to his work and not just dying out on trying to just pummel you to death, but not to death, to a conclusive victory.
There we go.
Yeah, but there's a worry there that he has to be really sharp and not make any mistakes.
Okay, elsewhere on the undercard, good fight in the cruiserweight division. Clarke in his 8th pro fight, and he takes on Tommy McCarthy. Good fight, crossroads fight. You've got obviously Clarke, a prospect but very experienced amateur, against Tommy McCarthy, who's sort of been there, seen it, and done it. Good fight.
Yeah, it is a good fight, and for McCarthy, you kind of feel like he wants to keep fighting because I think he genuinely enjoys it. But he's got other stuff going on. You know, he's doing a bit of stand-up comedy these days. He's got the pod with McKenna. You know, he's exploring other areas. I think he took that European title fight at quite short notice. I think, didn't he, last time out, and that didn't go his way. He's been a European champion, and realistically, he's not going to better what he's already achieved in boxing. But I quite like the fact that he's happy to take a fight against Clarke because he's been in the business long enough, Tommy, he knows what he's there for. He knows what the plan and the script is here, is that he's a great name for Clarke to get on his record on the way up. But it's by no means a given. So, yeah, it is. It's a good fight. I think if you're Clarke, it's kind of, if you're backing him, it's kind of a great fight to be able to get at this point. The kind of fight that you would have thought you probably couldn't get.
Yeah, he's not going to want to box me. I don't offer anything.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for Clarke, it's a brilliant fight.
And he will go into it. I mean, we've spoken about this as well, Barry. Home field advantage for Tommy McCarthy. He's very much the B-side on the
popular guy in Belfast.
But a very popular guy in Belfast.
Yeah, he is. I just think it's the wrong time for him. I worry, actually, for him. I got a feeling that Clarke's going to just run right through him. Like, right through him. And I think he's going to want to do a better job than our current world champion, your boyfriend, William Smith. Where is he? Oh, it's a full. If no one can see it, it's a full length.
Yeah, so we've got a mural. We've got a mural on the wall
with no clothes on. It's weird. And tiny. I think it's just I think it's just the wrong stage of his career and the perfect stage of Chev's career. I think Chev's flying at the minute, full of overconfident at times. I would say that, but I think he's looking like. I also think he's going to be too small for cruiser, but he's so bullish. So physically strong, and he's so fast on his feet. You know, he can spin around you all the time, but everything's with power in the shots. I just think it's the wrong time. I think it's an early finish for him. I think he makes a big statement, and he'll go. I did better than William Smith. I want him next. He's not ready for that yet, but I think
it's something you can shout about, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I say he's not ready. Maybe he is. You know, I don't know. You know, like I said about William Smith, he's one of those fighters who's beatable, but very hard to beat. Makes no sense at all, but it does, doesn't it? And I think, and so everyone will fancy their chances. And someone like him with his athleticism, and I think his boxing brain's pretty good. Clarke, I think he does a job. It's the only thing I worry about him is his cockiness, which helps him, but I can get you into trouble. No, Tommy's experienced, and he's a good boxer as well, and he can be light on his feet, so he might be able to draw you in and out. So if he can do that and make Clarke overreach with the shots, and then keep pinging him, make him second guess himself, then Clarke, with his lack of experience in the professional ranks, might be shit. What am I doing now? I'm in round 7, and I'm nowhere near the success I thought I was going to have. Even if he's winning the fight, that to put doubt in his mind early for Tommy McCarthy is going to be quite important. But I just don't think, like you said, too much going on in his life now. You know, he wants to fight, he wants to be a boxer, but doesn't want it. Like, I don't know. I haven't got a clue what he wants. But I mean, just the whole, you know, at this stage of career where you are now, I just don't think it's a good fit for him. I think Clarke makes a big statement and wins quite early.
How good do you think Clarke could be? I mean, I think this will be the 3rd fight in a row. I think they've got good opponents for him. I think Matchroom. David Jameson, of course, was a former British title challenger. Vasil Dutsar, which I think is always a very good name for any cruiserweight to get when you're certainly around a handful of fights. And now Tommy McCarthy. So they're bringing him on well. And to have Tommy McCarthy in your 8th fight on the back of Dutsar in your 7th fight, you can't really be going much quicker, can you, at cruiserweight?
No, you cannot. I know. Of course you can. And you bear him up. I seen he wasn't in the. There was actually some rating. It might be on Sky. Seen some ratings or what. It wasn't too that long ago, and he wasn't in them. I mean, Vidal Riley was in them, and he wasn't in them. I couldn't see how.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? That's the really interesting comparison for me. Is that Vidal, because he's got a big profile of all of his own, and he's also getting the push from Sky, and he's an English champion. He springs to mind for a lot of people. More readily than Clarke, but actually, when you look at the fights that they've had,
amateur experience as well.
Yeah, Clarke is, absolutely. I don't think he could really have been matched any better. And because we've got a lot of cruiserweights, every time anybody has a big win, they're going to talk about boxing Chris, aren't they? William Smith or you know, one of the bigger names, but. You feel like Isaac Chamberlain may well move on from that British title pretty quickly. You know, he's got a European title fight coming up, hasn't he? Yet to be arranged against Sislak. But I don't feel like he'll want to try and win that belt outright. So that could be vacant quite soon.
Who's that, sorry?
Isaac Chamberlain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so you'd feel
like... Isaac Chamberlain.
If you're Clarke, you're kind of... You'd be... Yeah, I'm sure he would fancy it against Isaac Chamberlain. But just to kind of look at a roadmap, then... Someone like
Jack Massey,
Clarke, Jack Massey, that's what he should be looking at too. Lawal's obviously still in that mix, having lost his title. Vidal Riley, you know, again, we've got like another wave coming through at cruiserweight. Seems to have been a strong division in Britain for a long time now, but that we could have another really good British title fight coming up before too long if Isaac moves on from it, which my guess would be. He probably will. It's
interesting, isn't it? 'Cause obviously him and Vidal Riley have been going back and forth the last couple of days on social media. He's got that European title shot if he wants it. He's been mandated to box Sislak. I think we've all spoke about this over the years. Like, you have a European champion that, with respect, isn't always like, for example, when Tommy McCarthy beat Alexandre Jure for the European title, with respect, that's not a European level win. But then you've got your David Avanesians, your Sergio Garcias. Yeah. And Mikhail Sislak, I think, fits that bill of a proper European champion, a legitimate world level operator that if you're not at his level, at European level, you're going to be in big trouble. So for Chamberlain, I think he's in an interesting stage of his career where obviously he's give a good account of himself in a losing effort against a now world champion in Chris Billam-Smith. Does he want to take what I would assume would be a much bigger pot of money to box an Isaac Chamberlain, kind of similar to what we talked about with Clarke and Tommy McCarthy? Or does he go for the glory and take a much harder fight, in my opinion, in Mikhail Sislak for what I would assume would be less money? So he's in an interesting position, Isaac Chamberlain. I think where he's at and the belts that he has and the people who are kind of making their way up behind him, what he decides to do with his next step, I think has a lot of ramifications on the rest of the division.
Yeah, true. Like, you've just summed it up nicely. It's not a straightforward decision for him. I mean, for fans... For me, I'll look at it and think, well, surely you want to win the European title. Yeah. You want the British European and challenge for a world title, but that isn't always the thing that makes the most sense.
But if someone says to you, there's an extra 10 grand if you want to box this fella, or 30 grand, or whatever it is, you go, I want a European title shop, but it's an extra 30 grand there, 20 grand, it doesn't matter what, 100 grand, I don't know what they're getting, but like just going, touch your title.
And
it's not a world title shot. It's a world title shot. You've got to take that.
Yeah.
Because that's just like the pinnacle for whatever happens. I don't care if I do it for nothing. You know, when you got a begging bowl, you know, I'll take that. But I mean, European title should be the same. But you do sort of think, it's still, if I lose to a world title, there's more steps to climb back down, to be pushed back down the ladder, if you will. But the European title is less, of course. You understand that?
Yeah.
You
If you think about
vacate
it-
your British title as
yeah.
well, and then lose the European.
If you think about it in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of a cap,
yeah.
if you think about it in terms of a caption you might put on somebody when they appear to work on a fight night, former world title challenger appears quite a lot. You never put up former European title challenger, do you?
No,
Yeah.
That
no.
doesn't happen.
And it's interesting. And if you're Chamberlain, look, Vidal Riley was a very good amateur. He's not really put a foot out of place
No,
as
he's
a pro
he's
so
looked good,
far.
actually. Looked really good,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
But he's not the proven entity that Sislak is. And when you look at Sislak and what he's kind of achieved or where he's been in his career, you would think that that's the harder fight. And you think also, you're looking at Vidal Riley, you think, okay, well, I get him now and he's a bit green and he hasn't, he's not been in a big 12-round
that
war like
argument.
Isaac Chamberlain has. Isaac Chamberlain went toe-to-toe with Crispin Smith. Okay, the fight with Lawrence Cody was an awful fight where he really didn't turn up, but he showed plenty of heart to get through that fight in a fight that he was being soundly dominated in. So he's passed those gut checks and he's probably looking at Vidal Riley and going, well, you've never done it. You've never passed those gut checks. I'll get you now for all of this money that I get more than that, and then I'll fight for the European titles. It's a very interesting
Chamberlain
position.
also with that relaxed style. That's why I was surprised he did so well against Spinner Smith. With that relaxed style, can be too lazy as well. And just think someone with loads of energy like Riley could, just dance around him, pop him, force him to make a mistake. But Chevron Clarke, who's the one we were talking about originally, I'm doing your job. Let's get back on track. Like he's flying. He is. I think he does a job on McCarthy, and he'll be screaming for world titles, because that's what they do now straight away. But I mean, that mix in Britain there, they'll want to avoid him. The fact that he's on the other side of the street to all those fighters we're talking about, different broadcaster, different promoter, is good enough for them. They're not scared of him. But I mean, it's nice to just go, well, I'll fight him. You got to come over here. And
Well, he does a good job on Tommy McCarthy. I mean, would he be any more or less deserving of a world title shot than Ellis Sorrow was, or Jordan Thompson, or you never know. You could end up with a big fight on the back of it. You never know.
Oh yeah.
Could see Jaya Pataya versus Chev Clarke.
Ellisoro
I
didn't
don't
box
think
for
I
the
would
world
want
title.
that for Chev Clarke.
He boxed for
Just
the
yet.
lineal title. Was it? No, he's done the lineal.
That's no
The
such-
ring
There's
title.
no such thing. Oh, there's a ring magazine, but I mean,
It's not the boxing.
yeah,
ring
but
title.
I mean, but he was going to. They shouldn't have let him.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have let him.
Now he's going to box for the title that he.
They shouldn't have let him. They shouldn't have let him. But then once the fight was made, they should just let him do it, because they just look, the guy's going to be a 2-time world champion now for no reason at all.
for the same belt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not really. Yeah, but I like Chevron Clarke's good. I wasn't sold on him until recently. I thought he looked alright, but I just thought he's just not big enough. He's like 60. Is he 5'11" or something? He says he's 6 foot, I think, but I don't think he is. I mean, I don't know. I look so far, and they're all too tall for me. But he's not. He doesn't look the biggest, but he's strong and fast.
Yeah, he doesn't look like
Explosive,
one of
yeah.
the guys who's having to cram himself into the weight.
But he can whip those uppercuts through from different angles, and you might get away with that step. The interesting is when he steps to the level and people just cutting off those little routes. When he takes a step there, people just step with him. What does he do then? Then you'll find out his intelligence and is that physicality a real thing against a guy who's strong. But I mean, at this point now, he's looked really good, and I think I think McCarthy's just the wrong time of his career. And then I'd push it. Then I'd fancy him against any of those right now. To be honest, I mean, Chamberlain's got more experience and can dig it out, but I'm not sure he would cope with a variety of Chevron Clarke.
Also with somebody like Chamberlain, sort of the flip side of going through those gut checks and seeing more of him, you kind of have an idea of where he is and what his level is. Whereas Chev Clarke, you don't really know yet. I think we've seen him as an amateur, but where he kind of goes as a pro, I think we'll find out a lot about that this weekend. Because I think McCarthy against Sislak, I don't think he ever really got going, and I know it wasn't a fight that he had a tremendous amount of time to prepare for, and it was always going to be a hard fight regardless. But he is a nice, loose, snappy puncher when he gets it right. McCarthy, it'd be nice to see him land a good right hand on Chev Clarke and see what happens. Another box to tick.
You got to make Chev miss, but no. I think McCarthy at his best could do
Has
that.
the ability to, yeah.
But I'm not sure if this McCarthy can, or if he can sustain that method of boxing for long enough.
Okay, final fight or final fighter we will discuss ahead of this weekend in Belfast is the return of Paddy Donovan. We discussed him previously, obviously coming off of the back of a very impressive win against Danny Ball last time out. Barry, lots to like about young Paddy Donovan, the real deal.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think so for now. But I think the Ball fight tells a lot, because Ball's a decent fighter, actually, good fighter, and he just controlled everything. He did. He controlled everything and quite comfortable as well. Like he still looks like a kid who's boxing within himself, well within himself. Like his balance is brilliant. Judgment of distance, all those things. I could say the same thing, regurgitate the same thing, but it's true. And you see when you see it clearly against somebody, though, for his stage of his career, a very good level. We'll go beyond that, and this won't look like nothing at the end of his career. But I think this level now, Danny Ball's a really good level for him. And it was like should have been a bit of a test. He should have been asked questions. I don't think he really was, and he controlled everything. He was comfortable, and then he knew when to click into gear to get the finish as well. I think all those things just scream, potential talent, and well, he is talented, isn't he? But and I don't think they'll wait around with him now too much anymore. No, but obviously he's not a top rank anymore. He was a big top rank guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
At the minute.
Yeah, he had some hand injuries. Obviously,
Assessing
had
his
that.
options.
Yeah, you would imagine that he probably. I
saw him in Saudi. He was over there with C. Parker, with Andy Lee and Joseph Parker for most of the week. Actually,
been part of it for a long time. I think we spoke about this last time, where he was part of Fury's camp for a little while as well. When Fury was doing like the Schwartz and Wallin stuff. And I remember speaking to Andy Lee at the time. He said, "I'm bringing him around. Like Emmanuel Stewart used to bring me around, so he can see all the nitty gritty and what it actually is really like in a big fight week. So it's not just sitting at home and watching it on the telly. So he's been earmarked for sort of superstardom for a long time. They've felt very, very confident that he would be the guy, but he just didn't quite have the sustained. I mean, obviously the pandemic was a nightmare for everybody. He had that plus some hand injuries. I think he had some outside the ring issues as well. But an undoubted talent and somebody who you mentioned there about kind of pushing him quickly, and it's something I think you said after the Danny Ball fight is the measure of a good fight is when they take that step up, they look better. Yeah, and he did do that last time.
I'll tell you what, he did some commentary for us that when working for the Zone. I had the Zone, but for the undercard with me and Darren Barker. Hi, Darren. But he has a really good boxing brain. That's what I'm trying to say. Better than mine, obviously, because I can't think. But I mean, no, like whether he could get it across or not is one thing. But I mean, he was talking about, you should do this, you should do that, little things, and I was going, shut up. I said, whisper to me first, and I'll let you know if it's good, if that'll be good for the broadcast. And then I just wrote it all down. That's mine for the next fight. Yeah, no, but he had some. He could see things, and when he could, for some boxers, it's like for us, we see things. Not for us, for you guys, not for me. I mean, you see stuff. But they see it different to us. You know what I mean? Like they're almost like a different spectrum. They just see how things work differently. You're going, you got to take your foot on the outside there, land with a jab foot, and he's going, no, you go that way. You go, what are you on about? I don't know. I can't really put a real valid point on what I'm trying to say. And they go, no, you do it that way. And you go, no. And then when they explain, you go, what?
That's right.
That's it. No wonder. That's it. And that's the way. I've been doing the conventional thing, the right thing, all my life, doing the right way, boxing a certain way, the right way. And these guys who just see things different, they just go, no, try this one. What the fuck? How did you even see that? Or where was that an option? To feint a step or whatever it is to do, or to go through the middle, or like, but it just seems like you're gonna get caught. No, you won't get caught. Oh, fucking mate, I can see it. If I go right through the middle, I gotta get caught with a shot. And they go, nah, you won't. I can fucking tell you, I'm not stupid. I can see it. And they go, watch this. Pff, there you go. It's just a weird, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But
I get what you're saying. It's just people who think on a sort of a different, not to heap a load of praise onto Paddy or anyone in general, but like who just see things at a slightly different level and just not to you, but like in general, and they have that devil in them that allows them to think about it and try it. So we
look at it about taking that educated risk. But to them, it's never a fucking risk.
No. It's like, no, that's how I'd knock him out. I mean, it's just like, okay. Like,
until it goes wrong, then they're all fucked. But but at the highest level. But I mean, we think it's an educated risk and do this and do that. We always say, well, the Southpaw's taking your foot on the outside and all the rest of it. And they don't always do it. And you go, you don't have to do it. But it's the most sensible thing to do. It gives you the better opportunity to land that jab over their lead hand. And also sets you up with the right hand on the middle. And they go, no. Watch this. You've got to have the talent to do it, but you've got to have the brain to see it. Now, he was taught, the way he was talking to me, I'm overselling him here, but the way he was talking to me, I was going, fuck, a clever kid. Now, I don't know what clever, I mean, clever for the ring. He might be thick as shit outside, I don't know. But I mean, in the ring, I thought, you're a clever kid. You can see him working. No, then when I watch his next fight now, I'll be watching him with a view to how I think he thinks. And I bet you I watch him in a different light. And I'll either be full of praise of him or full of criticism, be one or the other. Going, I know you thought you're thinking that way. You should be doing that then. Or, wow, that's why he did that. I can see what he's trying to do, what he's trying to set up. We might be watching it going, why are you throwing a punch? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And now I know the way he thinks. I might be going, I know why he's not doing that now, because he's setting up, and then the 2 rounds later, he's setting up that. And I'm just making this up, trying to make out these songs like he's some sort of genius. Like, he's a good-looking kid who can box a bit. That's it.
One thing that I wanted to talk to you about is something that Andy Lee said after the last fight. I haven't actually spoke to Andy about it, so I'm interested to see what he says. He says that he's the only. I don't know how true. We'll love a tall tale from the gym. He says that he's the only fighter that he tells to not warm up, not stretch. He says he's like a coiled spring, and he doesn't want to lose that, and he wants to keep everything tight. So. And you don't hear that. Do you know what I mean? That
screams injury to me.
Well, that's kind of what I thought. So I don't know whether or not, again, it's something that we'll put to Andy Lee. But I thought that was very interesting to hear that, because you don't hear stuff like that. He says, we'll tell him not to stretch, keep him coiled up like a spring, and then just let him go. I
tell you what though, some kids can just walk. I've seen it for years, because walk into a gym, like not train, like you turn up late. To Sunday mornings, probably most amateur gyms around the country, I would imagine. Sunday mornings was always sparring. It's certainly in my gym. The worst fucking time to spar, because especially in a cold gym, you're half asleep, it's freezing cold, you all got to spar. But you got to warm up. You're not warming up. You want cold. You don't sit in the change room like this. But like you see some kids just walk in the gym, put the gloves on, and they're just like fucking hell. And it takes you like 4 rounds of getting punched to bits before you get into it, and they just go. Poof. Some kids can do that, and he might be one of those. That's probably what he's trying to say. Just guys who can click on straight away. Doesn't need to have that big warm up, stretching and all the rest. Feel good. Cut runs on the back to get your eye in, or just get more comfortable. Or the round or two to take a few shots just to get right. They just.
And is that boxing brain, or is that physiology, or is it kind of a bit of both?
Both, really. Yeah, I think that's more physiology than anything else there. Because you can still have a good boxing brain, but you still got to get used to the environment. Some people don't need to. They just adapt quicker. Well, I suppose that is your brain in many ways then. Yeah. But he's more thoughtful than I thought he was. When you see a kid who has natural ability, physical ability, then you just think, I don't know how good their brain is yet, because they're just physically too good for they have so much talent, natural talent we call it, that they're just too good for the people they're boxing now. But Danny, and he got more natural talent than Danny Ball, but Danny Ball I thought was a really good step up for him.
It was a good fight.
Really good gauge where he is. And he didn't have no trouble. No trouble at all.
The best we've seen him.
And he boxed well within himself, I thought as well. There was more to come from him if he wanted it. He wasn't asked. And I don't mean Danny Ball's still a good fighter. They will still go on to do decent things around that, just below that British title level, I feel. But I mean, which is a good level. We all talk about world championships all the time now, but it's not get carried away. But I think, he's the potential to go a lot further. Bigger tests, bigger steps, and we'll see how he adapts to that. We've seen many fighters look brilliant at this level, step up and be shit. Not shit. But but you've seen, haven't you? Like, I've seen fighters like me who looked okay all the way, but just kept going at okay level. And some people do that. Like Bill Smith's one of them. Never looked supersonic anywhere, is he? He's just okay, good. He's just a good at every level he's gone up.
And so the flip side of that, some of the example that we always quite often talk about when we're talking about the other side is Liam Williams, where if you're not at Liam Williams' level, he's going to bulldoze you and get rid of you. But as he steps up, he can. You look some fighters who would beat a Liam Williams don't look as good on the way up, but when they face each other,
just keep winning. Yeah. Winning's a skill of its own, by the way. You're winning however you perform, you still find a way to win. But right. I don't think Paddy Donovan's that. I think he's a kid who's going to be just looking brilliant, and that brilliantness might take him all the way to the top.
It'll be interesting to see how, because again,
as long as all the fighters around welterweight now disappear.
It's a
ship league, isn't it?
It's a division to fly through for sure. Right, final thing we want to talk about. We are running slightly over, thanks to the fire alarm.
Let Andy talk.
Andy, going to come to you. Completely irrelevant to this week's cards. We've all kind of sat around for the last few years and wondered what would happen if Queensberry Promotions and Matchroom Boxing had a night against each other. And it seems as though His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh has been sitting around thinking exactly the same thing as us. Obviously. And it looks as though we're getting there, or we're there. Obviously, an announcement that it's going to happen. Certainly no grounds to question that it will, because everything that they've said has happened in the last few months, and with respect to that, much grander stuff. But very, very exciting times, isn't it? Matchroom versus Queensberry. We finally got there. Who wants it? It turns out Turkey Al Sheikh wants it.
It's kind of crazy, really, isn't it? When you look at this latest boxing revolution, luckily for us, it's really quite UK centric in terms of the people who are involved in it, and that's why I've been asked to go over and work on it. If it was being controlled by the USA, for example, then I wouldn't be anywhere near it. I don't think. It's a really kind of fascinating situation, and the fact that they're happy to put that card together, I think one of the reasons they're keen on it is because they know it'll create interest in the UK. Let's be honest, it won't create much interest outside of the UK. It's a pretty niche trade thing to do, isn't it, to do Queensberry against Matchroom? But they can announce it and have it there as something solid that is definitely going to happen when they announce the date for it. Because what they'll know from their experience so far, and they're not naive, they'll have known it going in, but planning ahead with regard to other stuff that might require somebody to beat somebody else to fight each other is difficult, because we all know that December the 23rd was supposed to be Fury Usyk, and then it wasn't, and they've got to do something at short notice. And then early March was supposed to be Joshua Wilder, and then it isn't because Wilder got beaten by Joseph Parker. Whereas with something like this, they can almost get a bit of a series going, probably, where they can announce this. We don't know who's fighting who yet, but it's a team thing. And I was talking to someone about it the other day, and if you can get other people involved in this, if you could get Top Rank involved in this, if you can get other kind of big hitters involved in it, Oscar De La Hoya seems to put himself on the outside of it somewhat, but it could be really, really fun, couldn't it? A kind of promotional team event, if there's some longevity to it, if people are happy to indulge it. And Top Rank have got the obvious link already because they've got Tyson Fury, so they've had a presence on these cards. They'll have more presence in February. If they're invited to be a part of it at some point, you'd imagine they'd do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that we've seen in the last 6 months or however long this kind of latest adventure has been going is that pretty much anything is possible. Yeah. I mean, how can you sort of say, oh no, that's not going to happen? Well, they did Fury Usyk, Fury Ngannou, Joshua Ngannou. We've got Hearn and Warren giving each other back massages.
If you think about it,
it's incredible to see.
You can even get to a point where they say, okay, let's have the UK versus the USA. Never mind who boxes for which promoter. Let's do that, because that is something that a casual audience could really tap into.
We're going to have a Six Nations of boxing.
A World Cup of boxing.
Yeah,
professional World Cup of boxing.
Honestly, I think these are the kinds of things that they're thinking about. It's the kinds of ambitions that they have, because, I mean, we all love World Series boxing, and most people who watch this will know what that is, but most people who follow boxing won't know what that is, and people who don't really follow boxing
it in the
have
pros,
got absolutely no chance whatsoever of knowing what that is. But it was a team event, country versus country, 5 fights on a night, and it was brilliant. And the team thing is something that has never really worked in boxing, but the team dynamic, particularly country against country, for broadcasters is just, they love it because it's so easy to understand. And in a sport like boxing, where things can be quite complicated, it just takes all of that kind of mess potentially out of the equation.
It potentially takes away all these organisations, WBO, BC, IBF, BA, takes them all, it makes them all defunct, doesn't it? Just go, we'll have our own World Series and call it the Al whatever Cup.
Yeah, well, it's true, isn't it? And that's by and large seems to be what the plan is. It seems it's to usurp all of the politics and all of the, the issues and the barriers of entry that it has for fans, because they don't know, okay, well, this guy, with somebody say, oh, this would be a great fight. Well, that's not going to happen. Why? Because this promoter and that manager.
The difficulty is why it's never really happened previously when people have tried, I'm going to take over boxing and do this and do that, is there's just too many vested interests where people don't want that to happen. And the obvious remedy for that is money. But if you're going to think a bit longer term, you might look at a massive pot of cash and you might still think to yourself, I still don't really want this, because where's it going to leave us when it's over?
Yeah.
So it still could be a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about that, was one of the suggestions around the World Boxing Super Series when the World Boxing Super Series was out, because that didn't have. I mean, it had some great fighters in it, of course, and we've gone to see what they've gone and done, but it didn't have any PBC fighters in it. I don't think there was any Golden Boy fighters in it. Could be wrong on that.
Yeah, and they ended up having to do the same weight.
It's just like.
But if it's not a one hit wonder like they were, sort of thing. I mean, they're not just a series of one hit wonders. If you're doing a continuous season type thing every year, if this goes on for 3 or 4 years, then all these other fighters will have to come over. Or their promoters, they will have to in it, because they're going to go, we were frozen out now, totally frozen out. So we got all these belts, but we're not fighting anybody. And all the other guys are fighting, seems to be making money. I mean, I think the real reason I think why all these things don't really happen is because the money runs out. The World Boxing Super Series was a fantastic thing. It cost a fortune. I mean, I imagine investors didn't get their money back, I would imagine, which is a risk when you invest in anything. But I mean, for the scale where the fighters were getting paid, the reason why some of them jumped on it was for the money. They got all those best cruiserweights in the world together, because they go and the super middleweights, because the money was huge. That's the truth. And now, but what it seems to be in Saudi is that, I don't know this, it seems to be that making money is not an issue. So the shows are put on, they can offer whatever they want because they don't need to make a profit.
No, it's just about making.
Is that
the
right?
event.
Just make the fight. It seems like I don't see where they get the revenue from. I don't think I'm talking.
I guess then it comes down to
no.
It comes down to kudos then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, how attractive does boxing remain to them in the pecking order of
Football, golf,
other things? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's gonna be just right. Okay, well, before we wrap things up, then I'm gonna go to each of you. I want one Matchroom versus Queensberry fight.
Oh.
I'd probably go Callum Smith to Anthony Yard.
Boring.
It is, but it's a good fight. Isn't
It is a good fight. And I think Callum Swift's going to carry on boxing now. But anyway.
I don't know.
That's
Queensberry.
the obvious one.
Fury Joshua.
Yeah, I know.
I spoke to Frank about it. Frank was like, yeah, obviously not that. I was like, well, yeah, I know.
Can we team captains?
yeah, it's a good idea.
Who've Matchroom got as a featherweight?
Hopey Price.
Oh no, that's not right.
I hope you price Nathaniel Collins is
Yeah, it's been
by the
ordered.
board, hasn't
Yeah.
it? So that
Raymond
would
Ford,
probably
is
be
he
one
still
of
with
them.
Matchroom?
Yeah, you could do Ray. No, yeah, he is. Yeah,
Nick Ball.
Ray Ford against Nick Ball could be a unification fight.
God, that's a great fight actually.
Could be a
Great fight,
unification. I was going to put, because we did our post, I was going to put that, but obviously they've both got fights coming up.
But if you sit down and have a good think about it, though, which I'm not going to do, by the way.
Not for this.
Time is money, my friend. Yeah, you could come up with millions of them, and with that as well, you could have like substitutes, replacement fights, and all. It could never end.
Well, it's going to be interesting. That's one of the points I was just trying to make on it the other day, is that you don't really know where, like, okay, in my head, and again, we don't really know this, so I'm just trying to find out for a piece that we're doing, is like, how are these fights being put together? Is it Turkey who sits there and goes, I like him against him, or is there a collaborative, or is it this, is that? Obviously, this is like very much team versus team, so there's going to be discussions and negotiations between camp, naturally, but we all know Eddie and Frank, independent of each other, and as much as they've been, best, but they're going to want to win this, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
What sort of level fights could we see? I mean, we've seen on some of the Saudi cards, as much as, the Fury Ngannous and Fury Usyks, and it's taken all the glory. But we've had some, for every Fury Usyk, there's a Mark Demori versus Filip Hrgovic.
On paper, though,
Do
that
we
was
s-
on
do we-
paper. He had a good record, Demori. He boxed a featherweight once. I said.
Do we see like Sam Noakes is like, what, 11-0 with 11 knockouts? Do we see Sam Noakes versus Andy Cruz? So,
Yeah.
you don't know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
You don't know, because
Or is it? Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like
Who
it's
picks-
like it's like Ryder Cup pairing.
The thing is,
just
each promoter's not going to okay the
Yeah.
fight today. They're not going. So they're going to go. So it's got to be like, you pick your fight, and you pick. So you pick your weight. That's what they should do. They should sit them. They should. You know what they should do? They should make it public for it, like a TV show, and go, right, Frank, you win the toss,
but imagine he did that.
and you go pick a weight, and you go, right, I'm picking featherweight. I got Nick Ball, and I go, head over to you, and you got a list of his featherweights. And you go, give me time. Fuck. You got to make sure the fighter okay. But they put the money they pay. The fighters just say yes to anything.
Yeah, that's
and you go,
exactly
okay,
right.
I'll put him in. Okay, Hopey Price. Fuck it, go for it. You get down to featherweight now.
And then the next one is Eddie gets to pick the weight and he gets to pick first.
Yeah.
But imagine, but why not? Why not? I mean, like,
or they just get given the weights, and then they have to pick their fighters, submit them, and then they just get revealed.
I know. Yeah. I was going to say, yeah.
And then you've got to
but
wonder
somebody's
who's
what's called like a blind. It's not blind.
Yeah.
They call it blind auctions, something like that.
Yeah, but like again, like
blind bids.
Blind bids.
exactly,
But you have like, imagine that. Like somebody was saying the other day, it's like, why don't they do it like WWE style, and you don't know who's fighting until they come out? And everyone was like, oh, what a ridiculous thing to do. And I think like,
well, it'd be
sounds fantastic.
It'd be absolutely amazing.
I'm not
it just wouldn't.
That was professional boxing in the 80s and 90s, by the way. It was. I boxed a kid after I won a world title. Well, Chris Williams, nice kid, good boxer, Chris. I didn't know Chris was a southpaw till the bell rang. I didn't.
I guess from a promotional point of view, it doesn't really work, does it? You can't advertise the fights because you don't know.
But
what they
people are
are
going to buy it anyway. You just put Frank and Eddie's face on it, and you go Matchroom on one side, Queensberry on the other, and then a bunch of question marks. People will buy it.
I do think you give the kids time to prepare for the fight.
I mean, you the fighters will know, but you keep
but
everything
leaked
super
then,
hard.
won't it? There's no way they'll be able to keep it in house.
But I mean, even
media might not. They might play the game and not announce it, but we'll all know when it'll come out.
But how many red herrings could you throw out there as well?
Remember we said that before. I've always said, if you promote the sport, not this is a weird thing to promote the sport. But it's time to change. Promote the sport. I think TV companies, everyone, and promoters, because they're looking for they're all trying to get a pay-per-view star. They're looking for the star. If you promote the sport, stars will appear.
Yeah.
Rather than just promote
completely agree.
Yeah,
but
it might take a longer time, but ultimately, more stars will appear. And a conveyor belt of it, but they're looking quicker because the promoter just wants to grab what's ever there now and worry about tomorrow. And I understand that because because there's no tomorrow in boxing potentially. Boxers disappear, they retire, they fail brain scans, and they go somewhere else because they're greedy. Like we're all greedy, but so you just go promote the sport. So this is that would be the sort of thing. So you don't need to promote it. So TV audience at the end, just know it'd be the best fighters from Warrens and the best fighters from Hurtons. We don't have to know who's fighting, because we know whatever fights are coming are competitive, hard fights. So that you're promoting the sport of boxing. We're going to watch 5 really good competitive fights.
Absolutely.
And so who they are, we don't know yet. Like say Man United play, not Man United, Chelsea playing Arsenal. You don't know who's playing. You might know who's on who plays for the team.
We don't know until the team sheet's there. Exactly.
All the best players might break their leg in it, all at the same time. You're still going to watch. You're still going to watch this game.
It's so interesting, though, isn't it? Because I looked at it and I just thought, wow, it's quite kind of like how kind of like niche British is that, but at the same time really interesting. But then it just occurred to me that the next big step in the evolution of it is country against country, and with the broadcaster's hat on, I just thought that's the simpler it is, the better, because you don't have to explain that. It's England against the USA, and people will look at that. This big casual floating audience, which everybody always talks about, but which boxing really, really has in a way that other sports doesn't, just because of the nature of what they're doing. Everybody understands a fight. Country versus country is just like it's the ultimate kind of thing, really.
Yeah, it's perfect.
There will be weights though that don't get a look in ever. Unfortunately,
yeah, potentially, but I don't know. Like, if there was a quality super flyweight fight to make, let's say a few years ago when Sonny Edwards was with Queensberry and Cowyer fight was with Matchroom. Yeah, that's a fight that could pop up on there. Why not? Or
what if you got the two? What if you in your camp you've got the 3 best fighters in the same weight? Being a boxing man, I got to look at the negatives. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Exactly.
That's the thing. What if you all got all the fighters in your camp? Let's say the flyweights now, so Sonny Bam would never happen, would they? Because they're in the same camp.
And also in the same vein, you're not going to put like a
Estrada versus Gonzalez.
Not going to put like the number one, like you put Bam Rodriguez in there against. I mean, I don't even know what flyweights Frank has off the top of my head, but against the guys at British level, because then you've got like, okay, we'll go with him because he's our flyweight and he's our number one, and then that's why. But what you said earlier about the event is really true in this instance. Like people talk about Nathaniel Collins versus Hopi Price. What do you think is going to create more headlines? Queensberry winning a purse bid and that happening as a co-main on a Telford show or whatever. Or, oh my God, it's Matchroom versus Queensberry. It's Nathaniel Collins versus Hopi Price. My God. Like
Yeah. If they get in the ring where they just say that's
and
the
you've got
final fight
Eddie
of the
behind
night,
them in one corner.
It's 2-2 after 4 fights, and there's
do you know
the
what I
final
mean?
fight.
But
you
like
know,
even the announcement of it,
But by
like
the way, that's a brilliant fight, by the way.
yeah,
it's a
really
really
good
good
fight.
fight.
Like Liam Davies versus Shabazz Masood as well.
Yeah,
good
yeah,
super
yeah.
bantamweight fight. Like so, there are fights there that on that stage, and again, like they could do I think doing a draw would be great, or doing like a draft sort of thing
Yeah.
would be fantastic. However they do it, whoever ends up on that card, it's gonna elevate it. I mean, I couldn't even put a percentage on it, but that's a good example. Like if that fight gets won in the traditional way and it happens on a card halfway down, or even as a main event on a smaller show, it has nowhere near the same impact as, you know, Nathaniel Collins walking out with Frank and, you know, Hopi Price walking out with Eddie and all of that. Like that's theatre, and that's something that people can really attach themselves to. It's one of the things why everyone stops for the Olympics all the time, because it's so easy to follow. It's
And
this
yeah.
country
And
versus this country. You don't even
team.
need to know
Pick a
who it
team.
is.
And they don't have to be
Exactly,
world
pick a
class
team.
fighters, do they?
No.
No,
I mean, they might be on their way to world class. We know you could have Nathan Heaney versus Felix Cash.
And that's where, in a way, this is where the fact that almost all of this floating audience, there's only a handful of boxers they do actually know. It just doesn't matter.
No.
If it's a good fight, it's a good fight. And I think people forget that sometimes. You think, well, people might tune into that because he's a bigger name. The vast majority of these people you're talking about, they don't know who anyone is outside of a handful of fighters. And that's just the reality of it.
Be interesting when I was seeing Cristiano Ronaldo watching Hopi Price versus Nathaniel Collins.
Getting bang into it.
Absolutely loving it. He is
Losing
Cristiano.
his shit at ringside. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
So my boy, right, no interest in boxing. I won't let him have any. He's not boxing. I don't even want to be a boxing fan just in case he starts to box. But he knew Ronaldo. He's not a massive football fan either. But he knew Ronaldo was in the crowd, and all he said was, "Why did you go speak to him?" I don't fucking know him, mate. As simple as that.
I'd love to have seen it though.
I don't speak to people I know. I don't speak to people I don't fucking know.
Barry just bowls over to the other side of the ring.
What's happening?
Puts himself down next to him.
Hey, Zoo!
Sits in between, just elbows Conor McGregor out the way, and just sits down next to him. He's like,
fucking-
you're really over familiar with him, Cristiano.
But he's telling all his
great to
mates.
see
My father saw Ronaldo in school. And they go,
There
no,
you
you didn't, you liar. Where's the photo then? They've got a photo for everything. Yeah.
Right, okay, we have reached the end of today's show, so we're going to do our predictions. Going to go round first of all to Mr. Andy Clarke. John Ryder versus Jaime Munguia this weekend. How does that one go?
I'd love to pick John. But I do think it's a difficult fight away from home. And off the back of the Canelo fight, I'll say Munguia points.
Barry?
Yeah, again, same as him. Love you, John. No, seriously, yeah. I think it's a great effort, and I think he'll push him. But I do think ultimately down the stretch, I think Munguia might get a late stoppage.
Okay, I'm going to go for Munguia points. I think it'd be a good fight that Munguia's just a little bit too fresh with. But I think Ryder will have some success down the stretch. I think he will have some success down the stretch, but ultimately it would be slightly too little, too late. So I'm going to go for Munguia points. Coming back around, Barry, going to come to you first for Lewis Crocker versus Jose Felix.
Yeah, Crocker, and I think he might. I think he gets him late. Again, I'm just going late. Edge of my bets.
Andy?
Points. But I think points.
Yeah.
I think Crocker's going to smash him to pieces. I think you'll stop him somewhere in the middle rounds, 4, 5, 6. I think Felix is too small. Too small. And the way he fights, he's going to get hit. And I think he's going to get stopped. Okay, Andy. Chef Clarke versus Tommy McCarthy.
I think Clarke stoppage. I think McCarthy will give it a right good crack, but knowing that he needs to get something done early because he won't have it in the tank for it to go too long.
Barry?
Yeah, I think he'll. Yeah, it's just wrong stage of his career. I think it'd be Clarke inside 5. I do. Yeah,
I'd agree.
I think
with
the
that.
variety in his work and just the energy he got right now. I just think it's the wrong time for McCarthy. He might be the wrong time for McCarthy any time in his career, but I think this stage is the wrong fight for him.
I think it will go slightly longer, but I think Chev Clarke gets a stoppage sometime in the second half of the fight. So we've all picked the same winner, slight variation on the method. So we'll all either be right.
Congratulations,
or be
Tommy,
wrong.
and
Yes,
Felix.
Congratulations, everybody.
John Ryder too. Should be able to
Yeah, well done, John.
Congrats.
But there we go. That's all we have time for this week on the Boxing Show. Thanks very much to our esteemed panel of guests, Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke, for stopping by. And of course to you all as well. Don't forget to let us know in the comments who you think wins this weekend. Will it be Jaime Munguia or will John Ryder get over the hump with a big win? Let us know in the comments and we'll catch up with you next time.